think H2K have really good individual players. I hope that we will be strong enough to stop them.
I think the patch prioritizes Forgiven because he's good at pushing turret.
But the rest of Unicorn are gonna be gone. That's it. That's the ace. H2 won. H2 wins.
If they don't adapt in those 2 weeks, I feel like we can beat them because they just take their time. But if they do, they are like unstoppable.
I don't think H2K really has an outstanding player. I think they're just solid as a team.
We can beat Fnatic if we just manage to keep ourselves focused on the bigger goal.
And it's a 2-for-1, maybe more. Double kill for Spirit. Febiven pushes him right back in for the double, and that's gonna be the ace.
Hello everyone and welcome to Berlin, Germany, where we are coming to you live with the second quarterfinal of the EU LCS Summer Playoffs between Fnatic and H2K. After today's best of 5, only one team will be advancing to the semifinals, while the other will be heading home. We have a packed house right here. Good evening. I'm FNC, joined at the analyst desk tonight by Mitch Krepo-Voorspoels, Luca Perks-Perkovic, and Paul Soas-Boyer. Welcome, gentlemen. I don't know if it's because of the matchup itself, because of the Twitter banter, because of the legacy, but there's something in the air here today.
Yeah, because it's Perks trolling me and
Yeah,
stalking you.
No, but thank you very much for joining us. Excited?
No problem.
You just told me you were very, very hyped.
I'm very excited for this match. It's gonna so hyped.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Okay, I guess we're all hyped, so let's take a look at the bracket. Yesterday, the Unicorns of Love also hyped. They defeated the Giants in 4 games, and they will be moving on to face G2 next week. What do you make of that, Perks?
I was actually surprised with Unicorn's performance yesterday. They've shown a lot better performance than in the regular season. Like, they were good in the later weeks, but versus us, they were kind of faltered, and then they picked it up again. And now they played yesterday really good versus Giants. They did some really good plays, which I didn't expect from them. So it's not going to be like an easy match for sure, and I'm looking forward to it.
What did you think of the UOL yesterday?
I think they actually adapted well to the patch, and they are playing a bit more on top lane right now. From Vizicachi gets some counter matchup, and they use it well overall, and they're really, I'd say, they go straight for dive. They don't really think too much. They play well as a team, way better than before.
Yeah, let's take a look at the championship points, because Giants, although they were out of the playoff race, they still retained some points. As we see there, 20, the lowest, so they will be the lowest seed going into the gauntlet, but they can still make it to Worlds.
Yeah, if you sweep through the regional qualifier that we dubbed the Gauntlet, they can make it to Worlds in a fashion that like C9 did, last year, just sweep it all the way up to the top. It is, however, highly unlikely. But hey, it's a fantasy story.
It can happen. And also, if Fnatic lose today, you will be a very happy man, because then G2 makes it to Worlds. Regardless of what happens? So are you betting against them, or?
I mean, no. I'm #Wrecking Crew. So it doesn't matter if Fnatic wins or loses. We'll most likely go to Worlds, I think.
Okay, we'll see if that happens and how it happens, and we'll also see what happens on 6.15. Yesterday was the first day we saw it in the EU LCS. In a competitive play, we looked a lot at the lane swaps, and we saw a lot of 2 versus 2s, but still a lot of moves to top lane, obviously.
Yeah, there were basically 2 series-defining moments. This is at the end of a lane swap that you saw from the Unicorns. They had to push on bot lane, sent their bot lane to the top, and then they kind of leaned on the advantage that they already had. Kennen was already winning in the matchup, so they kind of pushed through and got a kill. And then this was the second series-defining moment where Vizicachi honestly should have died, but he got quite lucky that Maxor
pulled a Soas.
Unluckily hit a creep. I mean, Soas is teleporting out, that's the difference. You can't have all the plays named after you. But yeah, like, he outplayed the situation as well as he could, but by all rights and purposes, he should have died there. But that was Maxor making a fumble, and that pretty much spelled the end of the last game too. Unicorns took a clean 3rd win in the series then in game 4, and they definitely deserve to be the winning team.
Yeah, what else did you guys notice, of course, from the other leagues and from scrimming, Perks, in terms of 6.15?
Well, since there's no lane, sometimes it's like a lot more lane oriented, or picking champs that can go through lane and then be more useful, or picking champs that are just strong on lane and have more impact. So I think LCK plays different style than EU though, because LCK already is like in finals. So and the EU plays like more lane pressure champs than LCK, while LCK plays like farm for late champs like on bot lane and mid too. Like they still play Malzahar and Vladimir and stuff. So
Yeah, they have a very risk-averse style in LCK. Like they will never like go out on a limb because the slight chance that it may fail and just cost you way more. So they have really passive like bot lanes too that don't really go for kills. They have like Tom Kench on one side, Tarek on the other, but then it results in team fighting.
Yeah. What do you think in the top lane? Vizicachi carried yesterday for UOL.
It looks like they don't really know so well each other, and that's the main difference between like LCK and Europe. Vizicachi, well, he's playing really aggressive. He have always been playing super aggressive when he was playing Eloy or other champions like this. But right now he gets a bit more attention from his jungler, so it helped him a lot during the best of 5, in my opinion.
Yeah, we'll see where the priority is today, but with the standard lanes back in fashion, we want to hear from you. Tweet at LL Esports using the hashtag EULCS and let us know which bottom lane do you think will reign supreme today and why. Perks is already wrecking crew, so we'll see what happens. In any case, we'll take a look at your answers later in the day and discuss that. But now we're going to get into the matchup at hand, H2K versus Fnatic. And the big thing here is that one of these teams is not going to make it into the semi-final. Seeing their legacy, that is quite surprising, seeing other teams rise up this split.
Yeah, I think the main reason teams like Giants or even Unicorns made it into playoffs is because a lot of teams in LCS kind of fumbled around them, like the likes of Vitality, Origin 2, just not making it to playoffs is a big surprise. And even Fnatic and H2K are doing a lot worse. It's kind of sad to not see them advance, but I mean, deservedly so, you know?
Yeah, people are saying, oh, well, it's only because the other teams were bad. Yeah, but like you have to be good yourself, right? What did you think of Fnatic and H2K this split?
well, I think Fnatic has had like surprisingly good first weeks, like because everyone else was bad too, so they were like the best out of the worst. So like we were really bad too the first like 6 weeks or something. So
but you were well rested after a long vacation.
yeah, for sure. I went to.
We're trying to kill this meme.
No.
It's fine.
Okay.
I like vacation, so.
All right.
So H2K also, I think they had like a really rough split. I think Freeze and Wonder were not a strong dual lane together, and they have definitely not shown up this season. And I think mostly Ryu also hasn't performed that well the first 7 weeks, and then the last 2 weeks he was a lot better. He was pretty good, I think, but the first 7 weeks he was rather disappointing. And the only games that H2K won was like Jankos hard carrying them, getting 100% kill participation every early game. So
yeah, a lot of issues for both teams. Fnatic more specifically, also Daylor most recently leaving, and then Nico the Pico is now coaching. You've had him as a coach before. How do you think this will change the dynamic in Fnatic?
Well, Nico have probably a lot more knowledge about the game than Daylor had. Daylor had he had more power in the team, in like how to influence people' ability to perform within the game. As Nico is probably gonna provide more information about other teams and what they can do and help them in-game wise. So we'll see how this can impact their team.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. H2K, of course, always has gone through a lot of struggles this year in general, and we do want to focus in on a product of those struggles, the fact that Freeze is struggling with his hand. We have Forgiven stepping in here, and the bottom lane matchup is huge, is incredibly hyped. But how much will it actually decide? Maybe.
I mean, this is a really cool matchup with two great players, in my opinion. Both Reckless and Forgiven have their strengths, but we can't forget that the result of a lot of these matchups will be draft and pick dependent. Like, I don't want people to come out of this series and be like, oh my god, X was had a CS lead of 20 over Y if they had like double range versus melee. However, within that scope, we still need to judge how they do.
yeah, I agree, and I also think that I don't know how Forgiven will perform because he hasn't been playing that much League. So going from a Overwatch game to League in a very fast transition, I really wonder how will he actually perform.
Well, when they came in and they didn't practice, they 5-0'd the week. So with a bit of practice, should it go better or worse?
I only Forgiven just gave them some mental buff or something because everyone from H2K just played like 2 times better that week rather than Forgiven carrying them or something, you know?
I think it's going to depend a lot more about the foreman rather than Forgiven. It's more that if the foreman can actually lead Forgiven to Forgiven to do something in the game. Like Forgiven is always gonna have a strong individual performance, but it needs people to tell him what to do and stuff in the game.
And I think with Prawley as their coach, back in like standard lanes, I think it may actually work for them because probably he's pretty good at like conveying simple macro concepts to his team and like making them do them. And right now there's just like a couple of key plays you need to do, like to push mid dive bot, like swapping your bot around to top. And I think probably as a coach is more likely to, in short term, make his team do that than Nico the Pico, for example.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I just got the cue that the players are almost ready for picks and bans. There's one more thing I want to bring up, the mentality of the team. We have some tweets. We actually only have one from Reckless, but for us it was really out of character that Reckless took to Twitter and tweeted so much, and maybe that has to do something with Daylor leaving as well. But Perks and Soaz, as both also adept at social media, is there any way this can influence the way you go into a match? Do you want to win even harder?
Perks.
I mean, personally, social media is just like most of the time it's just like fun to make the game more hyped or like more fun. So, but for Reckless, I think it seemed like pretty serious or like he really wants to win, you know. But for me, when I tweet before a match, it's just to make the game more hyped or to make viewers feel the hype or just.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, no problem. Just to make the match feel better, I think.
Yeah. Soaz, what do you think?
No, I don't think it influenced anything. But as you said, like I think for Reckless, it's a bit more serious too. I think for even no matter what he do or says, it's always serious no matter what. So yeah, I think it's gonna be pretty fun match.
All right, so we gotta go. So quick predictions.
Ooh, actually, I don't know. I legit don't know.
Bailout.
I really don't know too, but I think it'll be 3-2 either team or 3-0 either team.
Then I'd rather say I don't know, you know.
3-2 either.
Okay, no, I'll get a prediction. Fnatic 3-2.
Fnatic 3-2.
Hashtag Wrecking Crew.
I'd say 3-1 H2K, but it's gonna depend a lot about the first game.
Alright, whoever wins the first game wins the series.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so too.
Okay, we'll see what happens. We'll track it and we'll see if the games today cause more Twitter banter. The players are almost ready for picks and bans as we head inside the arena. Let's listen in as Fnatic's Yellow Star looks back on the split.
This split, and more specifically this year, has been very unstable for me, whether as an individual or as a team. We've met many struggles for the first time. It's really the first year where Fnatic is not like placing at the top. We're meeting like a lot of good teams and we're not performing up to our standards. And we went through like roster changes and we couldn't like find an identity to make a name. And I think even though we're struggling a lot, we are going to do our best for playoffs. We have the reputation of showing up at playoffs, even though we have a mediocre regular season. Now we just have to go all in.
Have to go all in. We'll find out if Yellowstar and the rest of Fnatic can do it. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the quarterfinals. I'm Quickshot, joined by Stress and Deficio. It is Fnatic taking on H2K. It's been a heavy start to the day.
Yeah, the crowd is already singing for you.
It is very kind. Thank you so much, guys. It is my birthday, and the best present I can have is to cast this game. Let's start by taking a look at the players on the blue side of the rift in game one. It is H2K. Odoamne in the top lane, Jankos in the jungle, Ryu the mid lane, Forgiven and Vanda, your ADC and support, with Prolly their coach. Reminder, it is dynamic side selection. H2K will pick sides on games 1, 3, and 5.
And that means for game one, their opponents on the red side, it is Fnatic. Starting in the top lane, it is Kigis. In the jungle is Spirit, Featherman in the mid lane, Reckless and Yellowstar as AD carry and support. And the big change for Fnatic coming into this quarterfinal, their coach is Nico the Pico joining them on stage. No longer Daylor, he left Fnatic earlier on, just before this series.
Yeah, and Daylor was one of the original coaches we had here in Europe. Once we introduced the role, obviously, in the LCS, he was here already from the start with Fnatic. 2 years ago, he actually joined back in Spring Split of Season 5. Now he's gone. Different kind of coach, guys. Yeah. Nico the Pico, he's more of an analyst type. Like, he's very smart at the game. He can sort pick and ban phases. The players can listen, you know, and learn micro things and macro things. But he's not the strict type that Daylor was, where everything is like under control.
And the question is that type of analyst, kind of more of your friend than a manager type, going to help Fnatic in their mindset? We don't have a lot of time before picks and bans, 6:15. Deficio, Stress, maybe what are we expecting here?
What we're expecting, I mean, we saw yesterday a lot of focus on having, obviously, strong top lane 1v1s and good jungle matchups in the early games. That's something we're looking at.
Now, this is something I've been expecting out of H2K, the Kassadin ban coming out. Ryu has shown us the LeBlanc and a few other picks coming through the meta, but having Kassadin available actually prevents so many mid lane blind picks like the LeBlanc because it's good matchups for Kassadin. Ryu wants it out of the way.
Yeah, we talked about the junglers very, very shortly here, the jungle matchups, meaning a lot in the early game, especially yesterday in Unicorns of Love against Giants. Early on, yeah, I was forgetting it real quick there. Early on, Nidalee Rek'Sai ban. We know Jankos is a fantastic Elise player. If he wants to play for early game, if he wants to set up these lanes for success, then suddenly an Elise becomes a very high priority pick for H2K.
Now there's a couple of other high priorities now. With the Irelia ban, Gnar suddenly shoots up in priority, especially with Echo gone as well.
I'd go Elise though.
Starting to clear the field. Exactly. I don't think this is a first pick, but I think it's an early priority potentially out from H2K because they've run out of top lane picks that actually do well into it.
Yeah, now very often in this split, Fnatic would run like Karma in their first rotation or Trundle, two very safe flex picks. I don't think Karma's shown a whole lot of success lately, especially not outside of laning phase, both in mid and support, but it's been a stable pick for Yellowstar and Febiven very, very often in this split. But the funny thing about quarterfinals, the fact we have 2 weeks of practice where the teams are just scrimming, we can't see any of it. Pick and bans can change a lot. Like comfort picks suddenly get changed around. Things like Graves all of a sudden could be a thing with so many jungle bans. And that's something we didn't expect coming into this.
And we didn't exactly like those Graves picks yesterday when we saw them.
2 week early
but
game.
You heard Yellowstar in a heavy video at the beginning of the day. Fnatic are a team that usually show up. Fnatic are a team that even with the mediocre split can bring themselves some pressure and some strengths, and I like the swap over the Gnar Gragas in the first rotation.
Much prefer the swap away from that Graves. Now gives Spirit a lot more freedom earlier on in the game. And we talked a little bit about top lane priority now. The Gnar has gone away from Odoamne. It's been a fairly significant pick for him to set fights up for H2K. Now we've got to see what is left in the pool. The typical Irelia matchup is gone. The Echo that we've seen in other regions has gone now as well. And Trundle doesn't fare particularly well into the Gnar either, so Odoamne needs to bring us something else here.
Yeah, might see one of the new picks up in the top lane that could appear. I think Kennen is a great pick against Gnar, something we saw Chachi play yesterday. We've seen other players around the world play it as well.
We've also heard rumblings about Ryze into Gnar as well, being able to shove out fairly effectively, and Ryze is typically seen in the middle lane. We haven't seen it too much top in Europe yet.
I think, though, you have a very good point here. Top lane Ryze actually is very effective. Fantastic 1v1 ability, like play him as a split pusher. Could be an option, but it is a high-risk pick. Game 1, H2K normally not the team who takes too many chances in the pick and ban phase. They're going for a staple in the Gangplank, despite him having some issues versus Gnar, especially once you get like Frozen Mallet. It can be very annoying for GP to sit in that lane.
And of course the Karma locked in. I mean, technically these are both flexes. You know, you can go top mid, that GP mid support for the Karma. I'm a little surprised by the Karma at this early stage.
Well, the interesting thing for H2K is they're one team that has shied away from the Karma in the middle lane. Only 2 games out of the 36 played for Ryu on that Karma, so now is the discussion of how has this practice changed? Is Ryu looking to play that utility mid lane? Because he played a whole lot of the similar champions of the Victor throughout the split.
Well, we have to remember also Karma just guarantees this very strong laning phase, both in bot lane and mid lane. So if Forgiven and Vander wants to play strong 2v2 on the bottom side, well, now they have the option with this one. We are just baiting you guys. We are now the champ select instead.
Quick update, there is a audio-related issue on stage, so that is why we have dropped out of Champ Select. Traditionally, it means up until this point, we should have the same picks and bans, but I will get that confirmed from our League Ops as well as our QA guys on stage in a minute. But yeah, that Karma, that flex,
I think Karma is okay here.
What was the terminology? It almost guarantees a strong laning phase in a meta where laning is important with Forgiven on your team.
See?
Are we getting towards that direction?
I mean, it gives you the option at least.
Would you go Caitlyn Karma? Would you go Tristana Karma? What do you prefer?
Tristana Karma, you can run. I mean, you can run almost everything with Karma in the laning phase. That's the good thing. Jhin, whatever you want. Lucian, Sivir Karma, like just perma push lane. There's so many options for it.
Also here in Europe, we haven't seen the much of Ashe on the 5 games that we have seen, or the 4 games yesterday that we have seen. We, as a broadcast team, were looking at 80 carries and what are we expecting to actually have significant presence in the draft. Didn't appear yesterday. We're expecting it at some point to return today, likely on Fnatic's side rather than H2K. We know Forgiven typically has stuck to his staple champions, a lot of Lucian that he likes to play.
And listen, I think we have to, call out the elephant in the room. The analyst desk was finding
the
it hard to
elephants?
make
What? That's pretty rude.
predictions because the analyst desk feels quite strongly that momentum can determine the series.
Yes.
You've got two teams that have truthfully gone through hell and back throughout the course of the year. Roster troubles, visa troubles, injury troubles, coaching troubles. These teams have had it all in spades. And now you've got the emotional weight of World Championships, of playoffs, and you've got these uncertainties, a new coach, a new player for Fnatic, a new ADC who brings a lot of weight to his game.
Yeah, and you know, because of all the problems you just highlighted, well, suddenly you see Fnatic and H2K play in a quarterfinal, not in a semifinal, in a quarterfinal, with Giants taking that third seed during the regular season because there have been so many issues. So obviously, while if we judge this regular season performance, this game wouldn't be like the highest level ever, but because it's these long-standing organizations with so many star players on the roster, we expect them to really perform after 2 weeks of practicing.
Yeah, exactly. And there's one thing to note for fans of both teams here, or individual teams. Both teams can't make it to the finals, but both teams still can make it to Worlds. Yeah. Obviously, through the regional qualifier, this doesn't lock a team out of the World Championships here. It's obviously a longer road to go that route than securing championship points or winning the split, but it is such an important game for getting that massive stack of championship
It's all
points.
you play for at this point. You want to make it to Worlds, you want to represent your region, your organization, and your team, obviously. So for both Fnatic and H2K, well, H2K, they have been to Worlds before. They went last year, got put in a group with EDG and SKT, and it was
that
like,
went real well.
Yeah, it's like, oh, well, you don't really have much of a chance now, so they obviously want to requalify. Might be Forgiven's last chance, if he's still playing, obviously, when they make it to Worlds, if they do make it to Worlds, to really have an appearance on the World stage.
It's a tough question to answer because H2K as a team have been fairly outspoken about obviously Forgiven rejoining the roster, obviously Freeze with his injury. How much better can they get? You know, is there a period of time where he can come back and join the squad? We know how vocal he is. We know how, you know, what he can do for the team. But then there's the other equation. Let's say H2K win here today. Let's say Forgiven goes ham, goes off the way he is expected to, because the majority of people feel H2K have the edge in this quarterfinal. Then the added question, do you remove him from a series-winning roster?
Let me quote Crepo here. I don't know. I don't want to say anything.
Well, there is one thing to be said, and it kind of echoes a lot of what the desk was saying about how even in a short space of time, an unpracticed Forgiven comes in and suddenly everybody on H2K is making better decisions, whether it's a placebo effect and everybody just feels a little bit more in control of things.
Yeah.
Vander says he starts talking a little more. The team decides to actually go, hey, we can go and push down mid tower. Let's all just group up on that. We can push it, get objectives.
Let's do something and try and win the game.
The thing about Forgiven and the teams he's been on, every time Forgiven is on a team, they always seem to look really, really good for a lot of the regular season. It's like they kind of rush forward and reach like 80, 90%. But then going from those 80, 90% to 100%, I feel like very often we don't see the teams kind of take it a step further. So whenever they get into playoffs, they haven't really improved over a few weeks. Other teams overtake them. I feel like we see that so often. So the question for me is, can the other 4 members of H2K pick up the slack? Can they really improve from what they showed during the regular season? And then just kind of add Forgiven on top of that and use him as like your spearhead and you push him forward?
You've asked a great question. We will have to wait to find out that answer. I just want to confirm that picks and bans will resume from the Karma pick. It'll be unchanged up until then. However, the technical issue is just going to take a little bit longer to resolve. So while the guys are looking at it on stage, we're going to head over to the analyst desk and have them talk about the matchup just a little closer.
Thank you so much, birthday boy. Indeed, a couple of problems, but it's okay. Hype is intensifying. I have got the cue that it would only take a couple of minutes. So let's pick in there. Do you guys want to talk about picks and bans, what we've seen already? You guys were talking about Gnar and Gangplank. Obviously, that Gangplank could still go mid, but what do you think of the matchup, if that is what it is?
Well, most likely it's not mid. I don't think it's that great
You're
mid.
not playing in mid, that's for sure.
But yeah, Gangplank versus GP, most likely Gnar wants to perma-push the lane, otherwise GP is gonna get the advantage because he can just freely poke him with Qs. So yeah, Gnar wants to get a pink ward and just perma-push the lane and get until he have a frozen mallet, and then he can have kill pressure. Before this is a bit hard. So yeah, and GP have the global ultimate to help out on the other side of the map.
Yeah. Crepo is also happy to see the Elise first pick.
Yeah, I mean, Nidalee and Rek'Sai were banned out, and I think at that point, Elise seems to be better as a pick, especially if you consider Jankos and his playstyle. Like, he has a lot of, like Perk says, you know, if he carries games, it's the games that he has 100% kill participation.
It's a good pick for them too, yeah. especially to take it. I mean, even though Spirit doesn't really play that much, but it's still good to take it away.
Yeah, and you saw Spirit like start doubting whether he goes Gragas or Graves, so it already had a bit of an impact.
Yeah, definitely. But in the end, it's Gragas. How much do you think the jungle will impact everything? Spirit was kind of hit and miss. He's fantastic when he's fantastic, but and maybe the same goes for Jankos actually, the split.
Yeah, I think both junglers are really good junglers, but at some point they just don't play good and they're pretty inconsistent. I don't know if you can put it to them or put it to their teams, because both teams haven't performed that well. So one jungler can look as good as his team looks, you know. But I think it's actually a lot gonna be on the jungle matchup, like who is gonna get the first blood or who's gonna carry his team and get the early kills. And I think Jankos can outpressure Spirit. I think Jankos will XD Spirit this week.
But I think it also in standard lanes it matters so much more that the support and jungle have synergy again, because there's actually so many phases where they need to like work together to get vision. And from what we've seen historically is that like Spirit and Yellowstar have like negative synergy. Like so often Yellowstar is fighting right side map vision, face checking, while Spirit is doing his Scrugs on the left side of the map, you know, and then like Yellowstar face check and dies, and everybody goes like, oh my god, this player so bad, no mechanics. But then his jungler is like getting farm advantage, and everybody's like, yeah, well, Spirit is so good at this game, you know, look at his CS, he's not getting, his team is not helping him. But yeah, you have to group with your support to help him.
And Mother Jankos are like Polish powerhouse.
Yeah, they haven't had the best synergy this season, but historically they've showed much better performances, jungler support synergy. So I think that's something we definitely have to track throughout this series.
Yeah, it's get to cue that the technical issues are still not resolved. We're getting a new ETA, a couple of minutes. Talking about Yellowstar, you know, he had the flag for the mechanical issues, then the communication is also not good. I mean, if you give it a score out of 10, the split and the return of Yellowstar, it's just not great for Fnatic, or...
I think it was a bit predictable. Like obviously, if people have watched the TSM games when he was there, it's not like he was a bit more on the spotlight because he was in TSM obviously, and he was reputed to be like really good in game leader in Fnatic and stuff like this. And in TSM, everyone was looking at his individual mistakes and stuff like this, and he couldn't really play the way as he did in TSM as he did in Fnatic. And now that he went back, there are obviously a lot of issues in the team, and they didn't really know how to play as a team. So it's really hard for him to just play in general with everyone.
Yeah, also the SOT or the video that we saw there beforehand, he also seemed quite down on himself.
Yeah, but it's a bit of a negative spiral too when there's a lot of community perception against you as a player. Like your teammates will read that regardless, and I think it's important that we judge players, even if we judge them poorly, that we judge them poorly for the right reasons. So like when Yellowstar face checks a brush, like yeah, he shouldn't do it, but then in my opinion, so often his jungler should have been there. But then when I watch him in lane very often, like he does make these mistakes, and you can call that out. But the community and everybody involved should criticize him for the right reasons. But I've been in a situation myself where you try to lead, but if nobody respects you, whether you like make the right call or not, you know, whether you maybe you're the one that is really dumb, you know. But if your team doesn't respect you,
I understand what you mean. Yeah,
then you get super down and you get playing even worse.
It's also really hard to improve as an in-game leader. If
nobody listens.
Yeah, if you do one call and then the two others are not from you or something, then it's really hard to improve actually.
Yeah, I agree. I think the most important thing in the team is definitely like having a trust and respect towards each one of your members. That's that's important.
Trust and respect towards each and every one of your members. Good atmosphere. H2K, of course, playing with Forgiven now. How about that? Of course, we all know the history of him, but how can that influence this match?
I mean, I think you can have a direct feedback atmosphere in your team, because like when I look at G2, I don't think all the internal discussions are filled with rainbows and butterflies. You know, they seem to, to my knowledge, have a very direct, open feedback, but it works for you guys.
Yeah, for us, it's because everyone in our team can accept criticism like very well. Especially like Mitty, I think he's really good at giving criticism and accepting criticism too. So you can tell him everything like, oh, you're really bad here, or you're boosted here, you know, or like he says like, yeah, I know I'm boosted, I'm sorry, bro, you know. But then he tells you like straight up, oh, you did this wrong, and like you should do this, and then he helps you with macro play and stuff. He doesn't even care about mechanical mistakes. He just the macro mistakes that we do, like we criticize each other openly, but maybe sometimes like people get a bit not like mad or something, just a bit maybe down or something.
Feedback hurts.
Yeah, I mean it hurts for 30 minutes, and then you're like, oh shit, he was actually right, you know.
Yeah.
I can improve on that, you know, and I actually think I improved a lot because of mid split, so I'll give that to him.
I mean, I'm glad for you guys that the feedback at least is working well, but you're also a winning team. Obviously, if you're in a team that is going up and down and you get that feedback, Crepo.
Yeah, if you go down mostly and you hear the feedback,
I mean,
it
if
hurts.
I was 9th place with Mithion team, I would probably kick him out of the house already.
But yeah, I mean, it's a broader discussion. But for Yellow Star, looking from the outside, I actually don't have the insight in the inner workings. But I feel like if you are a slightly weaker mechanical support and your team is losing faith in you, and especially you have a lot of these big names, maybe that's why it feels bad. Maybe like we're all wrong here, you know?
Yeah,
Purely speculating, but
I think it's also because they have like such higher expectation from themselves. So it's really hard when we had the same problem. Like we had higher expectation in OG, and we didn't really succeed, and we failed to improve as a team. So it's really hard to know. Like we solve one problem, then there's that appears, and I think it's the Fnatic went to the same issues.
All right, we'll see what happens. They're placing some hardware on stage, so apologies for the delay. We should hopefully get into picks and bans really soon. Still super hyped.
Same.
I mean,
yeah, I can feel the hype from here. Like even though they're not playing, I can feel like the ground is shaking right now. You know, it's just coming for it.
Yeah, you talk about expectations. Obviously, Fnatic always historically has done really well, but then H2K historically has not done well in playoffs. So which is bigger, the hunger to continue what you have started or have shown from Fnatic, or H2K to finally make it to maybe the final?
I think the H2K hunger is bigger. I think especially Jankos' hunger is bigger because as much as I banter with Jankos or troll him or whatever, I think he's a very good jungler and he hasn't actually won much in last 3 years he played, and he was always like one of the best junglers.
Better not get into Twitter banter then.
Since season 4, yeah, exactly. Since season 4, 5, or 6, like he hasn't won anything, I think. So I would like, I mean, as much as I like Fnatic, I would also think Jankos deserves to win. So yeah.
Yeah, and it matters to them too to go to Krakow, for example.
Yeah.
You know, in local crowd. For Ryu, he got his revenge finally.
Yeah,
now he's feeling, you know, look at him, this guy.
Yeah, completely zen.
That is the face of a guy who is about to wreck the wrecking crew, you know?
Yeah,
That's the guy who's gonna sleep because he's happy right now.
It's like nobody's paying attention to me, but I'm gonna step in here and get things done. Yeah.
You know, bot lane meta, top lane meta, no,
Whatever.
no. Ryu's gonna give it to you.
Yeah, let's talk. You've touched on Ryu beforehand. Let's talk Ryu versus Febiven. Perks, obviously, we have said as well, Febiven has not been dominating as much as he had last year. And then Ryu, by the end, I feel like, or the last week we saw him, it was going very well. So how do you think the matchup's going to go?
Well, both of these millionaires were like really good in Spring Split, I think. And last year, especially Spring Split, they were like one of the best because they were smarter than others, like more experience. But as more rookies came in and as more rookies learn, I would say like all the millionaires are just equal right now. So Ryu and Febiven are, I think, pretty equal. Maybe Febiven plays a bit more champs than Ryu. That's just my personal opinion. And I think the numbers, stats, is not a good statistic for millionaires because millionaire was like midlands was the like role with most deaths, I think, this split, because same for me, like the first 4 weeks I was dying a lot in lane stops and on silence and stuff. It took me some time to realize how the meta is, and
Oh, that was, it was the meta, wasn't it? You're dying a lot.
I think, I mean, yeah, because it was different.
yeah,
I think it was just hard for me to adapt and for a lot of other people too. So adaptation is just what mid-laners got this split, and after week 4 or 5, I think a lot of more people like learn how to play the meta and the game and their own role. So yeah.
Is the best mid laner in EULCS no longer in playoffs, Perks?
No, I'm still in playoffs.
Okay, so that's an answer for Knight, who got eliminated yesterday, of course, had a fantastic split so far. We're still waiting for the technical issue to get resolved, so we're going to dive into some of your tweets. You can steer the conversation here, so we're going to read this one from @DeCloud. Says, the success of the bottom lane rests on the shoulders of their outstanding supports. Yellowstar is more seasoned, but Vander is too good. We talked about Yellowstar a bit. Talk to me about Vander, Crepo. What is this?
I mean, like, I think neither are outstanding, and I think the supports in Europe right now are honestly across the board mediocre, except for Mickey and Mithy. That's why it was so hard to, when we had to get our votes in for top 3 supports, it was like Mithy #1, clearly Mickey #2, and then who are you going to give it to #3? I personally gave it to Vander. I think Vander just, he's more flexible in his champion pool, so he can pick up like stuff like the Karma that he has right now in the draft, And he plays like a style that suits Forgiven, in my opinion. So I think Vander Forgiven as a unit in like a bot lane bully meta should be able to have better picks that can then make you win the lane.
Yeah, but
No, it's fine.
but I think Vander this split has not performed as well as it was last
Yellow
split.
Star hasn't either.
I mean, yeah, but last split, like I thought Vander like a really high skill support and was always good on the map. Was not getting caught on only good mechanics and stuff. And this split, like I watched some H2K games and he was not really. Some games he was really good. Some games he was like really trolling.
I think when the lane swap, the map became really big. He got caught so often.
Yeah.
So but mid standard lanes, I think it might be better.
Nah, I also saw their 2v2 versus my bot lane and I saw how he died and.
Yeah, they also lost to all bot lanes. So.
Yeah.
But this is Forgiven now. You know, with Freeze, I would say that Vander Freeze wouldn't have a chance in this 2v2. But with Vander Forgiven.
But that's maybe why it didn't help so much Vander because Freeze had issues as well. So maybe they had problems streaming or whatever. So
yeah,
maybe it was hard for him to improve. We don't know, but Vander have always been like at least in top 3, top 4 in most of the season they have played. At least top 4, I'd say. So he's performing well overall. And this season, he didn't play so well with Freeze, but we will see how it goes with Forgiven.
We're still talking, guys, because there is technical issue on stage.
That's okay.
No, we just really
I want to get to the game. No, yeah, we just want to hear from Krepa all the time. So, Perks or Soaz, if you're on stage right now and there's all this stuff going on, you're so hyped and they're like, there's an issue. How do you keep calm?
I know I can't. I'm boiling. If I'm on stage and I'm sitting here and I can't play and I'm like, every 2 minutes, I'm referee, update. Please. Give me update.
Proactive, yeah.
So yeah, what do we do now, guys?
That's what I'm asking as well.
I'm pretty sure for us, we'll all be looking at PK because he will be drawing on the PC, whatever. So yeah.
Things that aren't for publication.
It's sad for players right now. They only have access to like Paint.
Yeah,
exactly. So that's what everyone is using.
Their rights are getting stripped away. You know, back in season 2 when there were pauses, we had like Spotify and we could do karaoke, and then it got like no more internet. Then everything got removed. There's only like Paint left. So poor players and hand warmers.
At least PK is having a lot of fun doing pauses. So.
Yeah. Well, we are still getting rid of that technical issue. I'm sorry, you guys, but we do have something lined up for you guys. While we are waiting, we're going to take the opportunity to say from all of us here at the European LCS to an amazing colleague and incredible friend, happy birthday, Trevor.
When I think of Ireland, I think of my family. I was born in South Africa, but my father's Northern Irish and my mother's Welsh, so I've got very deep ties to the United Kingdom. But when I think of the UK, I always think of Northern Ireland. I think of Carrickfergus. I think of my family.
Video games have been very much involved with him and his wee brother for ever since I can remember.
My parents had bought my brother and I one of these old like Atari kind of 2600 knockoff things. And I distinctly remember playing a game, and while I was playing, my brother's kicking me in the back, and I just did not stop. I joined the company on January the 7th in 2013. We were going to go to the qualifiers in Warsaw, where the games took place in a cinema. And if I did well there, shoutcasting with Riv, with Freak, with Joe, with D-Man, then potentially I could join the LCS team. My name is Quickshot, of course. I'm sitting in the hot seat. Freak, how you doing?
I'm doing quite awesomely.
Warsaw was terrifying. Freak was the voice of League of Legends. He did all of the video content. And I had to work with him, and I had to be his colleague and kind of operate on the same levels. And I just felt so overshadowed, and I just felt so out of my depth. My inner fanboy was losing it. Yeah, I mean, when I joined the LCS crew, I remember actually saying very upfront, I am a play-by-play caster, is what I should be doing. But there's no ways I was going to get that spot when Joe and D-Man were there. It was a challenge, it was tough. I think my shoutcasting style is a little polarizing. And I think there's a lot of people that like and dislike the work that I do. And in that position, there was some justified backlash, but it's part of the job. There's no such thing as a perfect cast. It's not a science, it's an art form. When the studio moved to Berlin, Joe and Lee decided not to move with the show. And it was a major, major loss. I was transitioning from color caster to play-by-play, which is something that I'd wanted to do for a while. It was tough and it was scary because not only did I have a limited amount of experience in a solo play-by-play role, The color caster was alongside me, Deficio, had only worked 2 splits on the show as a caster himself, and we were losing Joe and D-Man, and it was terrifying. I thought I was going to be enemy number 1 because I didn't think that I could fill their shoes.
I, for one, cannot believe it that I'm on this side of the desk.
And we're like, okay, we're gonna cast every game, people are gonna hate it, we don't know what to do, and we're like, we gotta just try and be ourselves and kind of just have fun on air, but at the same time try and really like hype up each other. So because it was just us in the start and we were like, we have to do something, we need to be good enough casters for people to want to watch.
I felt pressure and opportunity. It also allowed Deficio and I to develop a friendship and a caster synergy that I think is one of my favorites in Europe.
Lots of love. They have to go for it. Trevor, kiss me.
I never feel nervous when I have to cast a game with Trevor. Being it a world final or being it like, you know, a Challenger Series game, it doesn't matter. You just know you can go in, you can be yourself, and it's gonna be fun.
I wanted to deliver the best hype, the most energetic, in the most fun way, right? I just want to hit a 10 energy level out of 10 every single time.
What a lot of people take as fake enthusiasm is wrong. He's actually very enthusiastic as a person about the commentating, about the games in general. That's not fake, that is Trevor. Trevor absolutely loves what he does.
With the work I do both on-screen and off-screen, there's a level of trust and a level of faith from the production team to actually say, we need a body there, we need somebody who can do this role. Who can do it? A lot of the times I've got my hand in the air yelling, pick me, pick me, pick me, and I've been given the opportunity to actually do it. And the versatility is good because from a production standpoint and from an off-broadcast standpoint, there are a lot of people who sort of depend on, hey, we know Trevor will get that done. We know Trevor will deliver something that we're happy for. And that is great, the value that your team members actually can see and can place on you gives you a sense of accomplishment.
He absolutely eats, sleeps, and loves Riot Games, loves the LCS, loves shoutcasting. So I think when you see somebody that's really passionate about their job and love their job as much as what he does, that's what gives you that sense of pride and fulfillment as a parent.
Thank you very much for the video feature. I'm very lucky that the team actually decided to tell a little bit of my story. I can only apologize that you're watching that instead of the quarterfinal between H2K and Fnatic. It's definitely not the way I was hoping for you guys to watch the video. The problem is not 100% resolved on stage. I do, however, have an update that the pick some bans should still remain unchanged up until the Karma and the Gangplank selection. As I said, the problem is still being worked on, so let's look a little bit forward. We know that Elise, Gangplank, Karma has been locked in for H2K. We know that Gnar and Gragas has been locked in for Fnatic. If we were to theorize where we would look next, what champions would we look at and why?
So first of all, there are a ton of options. So this is definitely not like, oh, they should log in, you know, these specific champions only. But looking at the draft from Fnatic, because they already have a winning top lane in Gnar against Gangplank, and that's kind of like an auto-pushing lane for Gnar, I wouldn't be surprised to see them run like these split-pushing 1-3-1 comps. Save the last pick for FEBEVEN, obviously. I'm looking at something like Lissandra to come in as a potential last pick on one side lane, Gnar on the other one. And then obviously you still need the support.
Yeah, and we've been talking a lot about this, obviously, during the pause. We will theorize what we think is going to fill in the rest of the gaps, and one of the picks that you were talking about quite a lot with me is the Tahm Kench. In that support role, it allows you so much flexibility in the 1-3-1. You can always be protected in the middle lane, and if it's paired with something like a Sivir, they already have the Gragas. You are never engaging on that.
No, I think Tahm Kench right now is one of the absolute best supports in the game, especially against also picks like Elise, who's very focused on like picking off one target while Tahm Kench denies it. He's fantastic in 1-3-1 comps because you sit him in the mid lane with the big belly, and he can just instantly go to the side lanes with the ulti. So if anything ever goes wrong, when someone tries to jump, you know, you split pusher, Tahm Kench shows up with AD carry or the jungler, and you just 3v1 down the guy. So I think Tahm Kench will be a fantastic pick. The only issue is you do surrender your 2v2 lane against something like Karma, which can be a problem. I think Tahm Kench is an okay laner, but it's hard against double range.
There are a couple of other picks that we haven't seen too much yet that we've talked about as well. The Talia is another pick coming out of the middle lane that is a possibility for a lot of these compositions that want global aspects, that whether you want to play 1-3-1 as it is or just have the ability to look to camp for bottom lane and snowball that forward as well. There's always the possibility for that now that we're seeing a lot of standard lane matchups after the 6-15 tower changes. So another pick that we're keeping our eyes on.
So we talked a lot about all of the roles maybe around the AD carry. What are we expecting to see from here? We know that Jin has been actually quite successful, I feel, on 6-15 from some of the other regions that have played him. Reckless is very well known for his Jin here in Europe.
The original.
The original, so to speak. And of course, Forgiven, the utility kind of wave-pushing champions is something that we've seen him play a lot. The Tristana from week 9 stands out in my mind. So what are you expecting to see?
I mean, if you look at overall AD carry meta right now, a lot of teams focus on Ashe, Sivir, Jhin as like the 3 main picks. And then there's things like Lucian or Tristana, as you said, for Forgiven. I think we're going to see Sivir come in for either team, and then I hope to see something like Ashe as well, because I think she's fantastic right now.
All right, so we've talked a lot about the picks and bans. We're going to actually ask some guys who know the patch maybe just a little bit better with Soaz and Perks over at the analyst desk.
We agree with everything the Fisher says, basically. Back to you guys. Oh. Just kidding. Sivir, obviously. Jhin, I think they were right on the money.
Yeah, definitely. One thing that I would ask before we delve into the meta is like, how do you find adapting to a meta? Like, so as you've done it like a ton of times right now, and then Perks, it's probably like one of the first few times you have to do it. How does a pro team like adapt to a meta? Is it just like going to solo queue, spam champions? Is it watching other regions? Is it like theory crafting?
I think for me it's more of a feel of like, since I've played for quite long, I know that in the past this champion used to be good against this one, so I will maybe like think about it and theory craft myself, and then eventually try it and then see in scrims. But yeah, it's more of a feel about the meta, and if you have a good understanding of the meta and the heroes of all, you can find good picks, in my opinion.
I agree. I think it's like overall the feel of the game. As Soa said, like knowing the matchups from the past, middle matchups, top matchups, like all the matchups have been already played like 2 or 3 times or something. So I also think about adapting to meta is like a lot of different, how is it called? There is different ways to adapt to meta. You can like look to some other regions like LCK or LPL or NA and see what they played and take the best champs or what you think is good from the region and take into consideration and play it yourself. Then there is also like stuff that you can try yourself in solo queue. Give it like 10 games on this champ and 5 games on this champ, and then try it in scrims. Maybe it's good, and then you have to. If you think it's actually good, then you have to actually play it in scrims more to see in what situations it's good. So I think adapting to meta is actually a pretty like complicated process until you actually see someone having success with this champ, and you're like, oh yeah, I knew it. This champ is actually good. So.
For mid-lane champs in particular, we had like the whole control mage era for a while, you know, where it was wave clear versus wave clear. To me, it seems right now that it's going back to like fast push champs that can maybe roam, you know, like a Lissandra or
sure.
Talia. Is that do you like that more? Is that more your style, or do you really want like an assassin meta back?
For me, doesn't really matter that much. I can adapt to any meta. I just have problems adapting to the meta, like literally.
You're willing to adapt, but it takes a while. Maybe.
No, I just do not know what is the best champs.
Yeah.
But when I know what's the best champs, I can easily play them at highest level. It just the adapting process itself is like, I don't know if now actually Talia and these champs are actually OP. So I have to find it out, and then if I think it's find out, I will be the best at the champs, you know. But I would like assassin meta, of course, but I'm not like oh no, assassin meta, I see CVF playing, you know. I like this meta more than hug mid turret meta, because hugging mid turret and with Victor and Azir and in lane stops and waiting for 20 minutes or 25 minutes to do something is kind of boring, because you cannot impact the map anyhow. Like for a whole 9 weeks as Milan, you could not impact the map anyhow. Like I was lucky, I was like winning every game because my team was winning every game, you know. Like literally Milan as a split didn't have impact. I mean, they had impact in team fights, but not early game. So that's one thing. So now you can actually impact the map with like TF or Talia. You can push, you can roam, you can set up bot dives or top dives depending on the winning matchups, and yeah.
Same for you. So as like right now we're on 6-15. Teams used to have some standard lanes, but right now it's guaranteed. So people are drafting for standard lanes. That changes like champions again. Like we might go back to like Darius or like Renekton. Do you like play? I imagine you like playing it over lane swaps. And do you think we'll see a big shift down the weeks? You know, where now they find one champion, 2 weeks from now they find a counter. At Worlds another counter comes out, or?
I don't really think it's still like so much counter. Like we've seen Kennen against Gnar and stuff like this. I'm not really for the Kennen because I don't think it's that good overall. Like it's a good laner obviously, but besides that in teamfight it's really easy to play against in my opinion. Um, yeah, overall on top lane I think it's really important to have a good wave clear. Like besides maybe Gnar, you know, that is not that great, but he's really good laner overall and he scales really well and have super good team fight potential. But yeah, it's really important to have a good wave clear at least and yeah.
Do you think over the years has it become different for you to adapt to metas? Was it easier before? I think you're also the kind of player that doesn't need a lot of practice on a champion to then randomly pull it out top lane. But
Well, even though I don't practice the champion so much before playing it, it's not like Perks said it. You know, it's not like I play the champion on the highest level, right? I just know what I can do with my champion. I'm probably not gonna outplay people so much and do crazy things, but I will be good on the champion. I will not be outstanding, but I will be good. And this is fine enough for me to actually play the champion if I think that I'm gonna be able to do something in the game and have an impact on this champion.
Do you think the level 3 dive stopper coming back, like your Necton at least, push wave and dive on level 3 with Ignite? Do you think that can ever be a strategy again, or does everybody have to run TP?
I think you still cannot run Ignite, in my opinion. The thing is, as we saw, on the best of 5 with UOL, Gnar lost his TP after getting gank level 3, and then Canada freeze. He just changed it into a slow push. Bot lane came, and then Gnar was 20 CS against 60 of Kenna or something. So it's really important to have TP. If Gnar didn't waste his TP and didn't push the wave early, he could have used it to go back to bot lane and at least get a equal timing trade on bottom and get a bit more farm on the slow push going towards him. So it's still really important to have TP.
so in this matchup specifically, Kikis versus Odoamne with the meta.
I was saying before, I think Kikis is gonna go more for the counter matchup. I think Odoamne is gonna play still standard. He's gonna play Gnar. He's gonna play Shen if he can. I think both teams are gonna play Shen. I don't really believe in the Odoamne gangplank. I'm not sure. I don't know. I don't think he played it.
I think Odo plays GP.
I mean, he locked it in so far, you know, in the current.
Yeah, maybe he played it. No, I'm not
No
sure.
games in summer.
I'm not sure how he's with GP at all. I think he will probably opt more for the Trundle, but we'll see.
That's always something interesting when people go like, "Oh my God, this player locked in a champion that he hasn't played all summer." But yeah, the meta just changed to like 6:15.
Sorry, I was just wanting to see
No,
what was on my stat sheet.
No, it's not about you, but you hear it sometimes from like casters and like analysts who's like, "Oh, he's playing this champion, hasn't played it all season. I don't know, man. This is like out of the book." And like, yeah, of course, but this champion is back. So like Lissandra.
Yeah,
Gangplank's coming back.
I read something somewhere about what champion I played first time in this split or something, and then someone says I didn't play the whole season, and I actually played this champion solo queue all the time, or I played like before in last split or something, and I go, yeah, I am first time in this champion, you know.
Yeah. Champion. Obviously, you can't reveal too much because you still have to play. But
yeah.
Have there been a lot of champions that have returned to the fold on 6.15 that weren't played in 6.14? Like you don't have to name them, but
yeah, I think the mid meta is a lot different right now. That's from my point of view. It wasn't in LCK like that, but EU plays different mid meta style. So I think at least I will show up some champs that I will not name now. So
yeah,
Syndra is probably gonna come back.
Yeah. Didn't see it here yet, but in some other regions we did. So.
Jensen solo carry on Syndra.
I mean, so as earlier you were talking a bit about it backstage about the viability of Syndra, about like the multiple balls.
Our people always loves it, obviously.
Yeah. It's his favorite champion. He was telling during the season that when the W of Syndra got changed, it's if you play well on the the balls, you can set up 5-man stun every time. So it's overall really good for team fighting, and even if people play Braum against it or something, he was saying it's also easier to set up 5-man stun again because he blocks everything and the balls are all on in front of him. So yeah, Syndra is probably gonna come back.
And speaking of like LCK and stuff, with twice the games in Europe, twice the games in North America, and like so many games still going on LCK, how many games do you guys still watch from other regions? Because I personally find it very hard to even like keep up with my own region, let alone watching all the other region. How is it for the current generation of pro players?
I think during the split, I think I haven't watched half of the games of our own region.
Yeah.
Because they were like either on the same time or I didn't have time. But actually, not half, like a bit less. Because when you prepare for next week, we would always watch the VODs. So that's not true. But yeah, some games I didn't watch because I just had no time. So
I'm going to fill you in on something. The teams that are already qualified for Worlds now, RNG, ROX, and EDG. So possible teams you're going to play against. Are you excited already?
yeah, I'm really looking forward to facing teams from other region, also TSM. So.
If you make it to Worlds.
Yeah.
If I make it to
No
Worlds.
bias here, obviously.
Yeah, I believe in H2K they will win for me to go to Worlds because I can't win anyway. So.
Self-deprecation. We are still waiting for technical issues to get fixed. We don't like this any more than you do, guys, but we are going to keep talking and hopefully keeping you a bit entertained. And something that's always entertaining is tweets from Amazing. And he sent us a tweet saying, Heart says Fnatic win, Brain says H2K win. Combine the two and I'll go with H2K win with Reckless losing after the best series of his career. Oh man, that would suck for Reckless, obviously, after everything we've seen. But comments?
I think with all the team is, it's going to be really hard for individual player such as AD to actually like have his best
series
series
I agree.
overall. So since they're struggling right now, I'm pretty sure that Reckless is going to go with his best performance. Maybe he's gonna play really good, but you're maybe not gonna realize that because they are not at their peak. So
just an update. We are close to fixing bans. I'm not going to determine how close.
We found what the issue is.
Yeah.
Oh,
Now
yeah.
we're saying.
No.
We found the source.
But like, if you look back at that tweet, in terms of like career-defining, that's weird. Cheers. People really want this game.
We're ready to go.
We're ready to go?
Yes.
Are we?
I
I'm
think
gonna
so.
shut up then.
Yeah.
In that case.
I'm ready.
Casters,
I'm
please,
really hyped now.
please take it away. Please get us
Insanely
into
hyped. Let's go.
Let's go.
Insanely hype Perks, let's go. Let's hope the problem is resolved. As we have mentioned, the audio issue on stage has caused us to be delayed. We will jump back into picks and bans all the way up to Gangplank and Karma, which was the second rotation blue side. That will be locked in. And then from there on out, we're going to figure out where Fnatic go with their picks. We've theorized Tom Kench, Lissandra,
Sivir, we said Talia.
By now it's a new patch as well, so we don't actually really know what people want to play.
If Fnatic don't insta-lock this rotation, I swear. Because obviously the
40 minutes to decide.
The silence rules haven't set in. They weren't in-game. They can still talk throughout the entirety of this pause. So insta-lock surely has to come out of Fnatic.
Right.
What are they going to go with?
So we talked about, for this rotation, 80 carry support.
There you go.
I like Tom Kench a lot, and I'm actually really happy to pick it. So we got a prediction there. Took us 40 minutes to come up with it. But Tom Kench against Elise is great. And also, if you are planning on playing 1-3-1 split push, which is what Fnatic is drafting for with this Gnar beating the Gangplank in the last pick mid, Tom Kench is great.
Well, now if you're looking for that Lissandra, it also zones away the LeBlanc pick. If they were putting the Karma down in the bottom lane, LeBlanc into Lissandra is a notably tough matchup to play. So interesting to see whether Ryu would want to go that route or what else he'll blind pick.
Yeah, one of the problems in the current meta is lack of blind picks from mid lane.
Yes.
Like, Karma is one of the blind picks, but I don't think she's the greatest mid lane against teams who are really good as well, because you have like 25 minutes to win the game, basically. And then it becomes really, really difficult. But Karma is like the safest choice for mid lane. If you pair it as well with something like Sivir, which is locked in now for H2K, well, then you have tons of mobility. And we have an issue.
Unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, the Fnatic problem has not been resolved just yet. There was a backup audio solution implemented, and I believe that system is now being called into question by the Fnatic members. They did lock in Tom Kench as well as that Jin. So we've got one additional step closer to the game. H2K will need to figure out where they go with their picks and bans.
Why do you
Once I
need
get an
communication?
Once I get an update from production, I'll pass that on. But yes, obviously now we find ourselves in this theoretical situation where we
Gives
continue
us
to
more
look
time to
forward.
talk pick and ban. Because we got time.
That's definitely what we need.
We got Jin. This is the new version.
The problem is everything that we had already said leading up to that point has now kind of been proven true. So the only remaining question for Fnatic is, what do they lock into the mid lane?
See, so NA has gotten like bot lane stream and jungle stream. We get pick and ban stream here, where we just go pick and ban phase. We will actually not show you the game. It is being played right now. But
That is a joke. Please do not take that seriously.
So, Tom Kench was locked in. We mentioned why it's good. You know,
Yep.
1-3-1 is fantastic. Go from mid lane to both side lanes. Okay laning phase, not the greatest, versus the range support can be difficult. We didn't actually get to see the last pick if Karma goes mid or support. That's kind of the big thing now for H2K.
And that's the thing that you're talking about. Karma, while it is blind pickable, now you look at the other options if they wanted to go for mid lane. Vladimir's available, could pick it, but bad matchups.
Sure.
The Cassiopeia is there against it if everyone wants to play it. We know he's played it. Other picks that along the same kind of way, not really sure what went on there. Other picks, I had one, and it's gone now.
Yeah, there was debris that kind of caught us off guard.
There was Malzahar is another pick that we've started seeing less blind pickable than before.
Right, yeah, after the nerf to Malzahar, where his passive went from the 1 second, where you didn't take damage, to 0.25. A lot of the matchups, like Syndra, is actually much better against him.
Yes.
You can even play LeBlanc against him technically right now, because you can actually very quickly do your full rotation. Not the greatest, but just a few options. There are quite a lot of counter picks to him now, which is why teams don't want to blind pick him anymore in Europe. But that's because Europe, like a lot of players in Europe, they focus a lot on like the 1v1 matchup, being able to outplay the enemy team both in scrims, solo queue, and on stage. Where like a region like LCK, you pick a lot for the team. You pick a lot for the late game team fights. So things like Malzahar, insane scaling. Like give him 3 items, he will solo win you the game. But getting there can be difficult, and that's where Europeans are often like, you know what, I could go for laning phase, so...
Not worth the risk. And that's actually something that both Soez and Perks had mentioned, how the European teams and players, at least in scrims, that they've seen so far, have preferred to go more in that direction. The thing that I like about these patches, though, is they tend to last multiple weeks, and we've seen how one patch that lasts that long can also evolve within the meta.
Oh, yeah.
So the things that we assume is standard today may change next week, if we eventually get to those matches. But for the time being, obviously, we can see both H2K and Fnatic on stage. The technicians are being called in to look at the matter. And again, the teams are just going to get some additional time to think about where they close out this pick and ban rotation.
Now, we were talking about playing for the team or playing a little bit more aggressively and trying to win it for yourself. I think that also becomes evident when you look at the top lane matchup here in this matchup. Odoamne typically is a little bit more team-focused, whereas Kick is just like, can I 1v1? I'm going to try and 1v1.
Which is funny.
Try and just kill him in lane.
Especially because Kick started as the opposite kind of player. When he became a top lane, it was like, okay, he's just being put on tanks. Like every game, he picks for the team. But then he's evolved, you know, he's played more and more split pushers, especially in this split whenever he has played for G2 in the start and Fnatic here towards the end. It's a lot of Aurelia, it's a lot of split pushers, it's a lot of 1v1 champions.
And the interesting thing about Kikis specifically is, like, when he played in the finals with G2 for the spring split, everyone was like, ooh, I think he's the weak link of G2, not the best top laner. And then we come to the All-Pro voting for this split, and everyone's like, man, I wish I could vote for Kikis, but he just didn't play enough games here. And the rest of the top lane pool in Europe just hasn't been showing up as consistently. Sure, we've had Wonder playing very well. Expect we're still trying to place, but when you look at the Odoamne, the Cabo Shards, people that we've expected over time to do very well, they just haven't had the same performance. So this guy comes into the Fnatic lineup late on in the split, and everyone's like, man, the best top laner in Europe's back.
The thing about Kikis is he's an incredibly hungry player, and this is shown very true throughout the last year and a half of his competitive career, where he's actually fairly outspoken, fairly forward-thinking, and continually trying to improve on his own play as well as his team play. I mean, remember, he dropped out of an LCS position last summer to join a challenger team that then went on to win the following split. You know, he made a conscious decision to do those things. He was also fairly outspoken at the beginning of the split regarding Expect. And he was like, hey, stop me or I'm gone. And the team kind of went, right, we think our long-term plans are without you, Kikis. So he opted to step down, you know, and has been very public, very outspoken. And now he's got this opportunity to shine against Odoamne. And it is a difficult matchup in the grand scheme of things, because this is a lane where I think Fnatic have to do well.
Yes.
When you expect them to underperform or be challenged in their duo 2v2.
Yeah, again, a lot of people, as you said, look at the 2v2 in the bottom lane, but the top lane 1v1 and the jungle 1v1, and then when you combine them very often, like when you look at a top lane matchup, especially in professional play, often you have to look at the jungle matchup as well, because it will also impact it. Yeah, you might have a stronger 1v1 in the top lane, but then if the enemy jungler is better and he shows up and camps you and kills you twice, well, then your matchup is gone.
Yeah.
So you have to look at the 2v2 combined, and this is where, like, having things like Narg, who goes Frozen Mallet, give a Gragas level 6, and then you can almost one-shot the Gangplank. But before that, Elise can have level 3 ganks that are extremely impactful. This patch right here, because it's standard lanes, jungle pathing has changed quite a bit. There's a lot of options, especially also where you start level 1. Because before, if you thought it was a lane swap, you had to start with your top laner, obviously on opposite side, clear away, join in with your team, push in the tower. You don't have to do that anymore. You can actually start wherever you want and then plan around, skip camps, get early red buff, and then gank very quickly to surprise people. And that's something Jankos, as a jungler, have done in the past, and I think this kind of patch fits him if he can just perform in playoffs.
Absolutely agree with that, and that's one area that we were saying that H2K should theoretically have an edge, is when you look at that top and jungle synergy. Spirit and Kikis haven't been playing together for too long. We know, obviously, the discussions about Spirit and Gamsu previously and how well they work together, so different style comes in slightly. Jankos and Odoamne have been playing together for a long, long time now.
We were doing a lot of prep coming into the series, and the concept of how Jankos and Spirit match up against one another. Jankos is this carnivorous, kill-focused jungler, and he wants to get in your face, and he doesn't really care too much about CS. If he can get somewhere and kill someone. And Spirit, on the other hand, he's a monster farmer and vision and more of like a control-style jungler. And I want to see whether or not Jankos can continue this high-pressure, high-first-blood focus, because it can obviously swing a lane in one favor with one successful gank.
And that always has to be the question coming into this game here is Spirit going to be the Spirit from World Elite that did just farm up and basically went hands off for like the first 10 minutes of the game and didn't really do too much? Or is it going to be the Spirit we've seen from time to time come out where he is impacting lanes? He's not just focused on farm. We know he can do both, but typically does default back towards farming, whereas Jankos doesn't care what farm is. He's just going to get farm from his kills.
Yeah, it's very interesting with Spirit. For some reason, I decided to go back and rewatch IEM games from Fnatic when they actually played really well.
You mean he's Lee Sin?
He's
Where
Lee
he
Sin.
like hard carry?
Where he was so active in terms of ganking, multiple lanes. He went crazy in the early game, and he actually played to get his lanes ahead. Febiven looked great in that tournament. Very often, Spirit was right there in the mid lane, setting him up. Bot lane got a few, good ganks as well, plus that strong 2v2 lanes because of the picks. And Fnatic were actually doing really well early to mid game. This split, most likely also because of internal issues and maybe not trusting in your teammates too much, Spirit has gone back to the hard farming style. Like on average, this guy is like 7 to 8 CS above the enemy jungler at like 10 minutes. It's miles ahead of anyone else in the jungle. Like he's a heavy farmer, but it doesn't really help someone like Febiven. And also because Febiven has been playing like Azir and Victor a lot when other players have been playing more aggressive laners. Those two guys have not really been able to synergize this split. And we need to see that. We need to see Spirit set up Kikis and Febiven. We need to see him push these laners forward because we know he's a fantastic jungler, but you can't win in the jungle on your own.
And what that translates to is not only just a little bit more farm for himself, but less impact in the First Bloods. When you look at First Blood stats, his involvement is the second lowest of junglers compared to Trashy, who sits just beneath him. But Trashy has a counter-ganking style where he doesn't ever really go hands-on. He just tracks, makes sure that the enemy jungler isn't doing anything on the map. And Spirit, you can't quite say the same for. He's a little bit of that, but a lot more focused on actually taking the camps down. So it is this unique dynamic now that we go into standard lanes. You cannot get away with that as much. That is going to get punished heavily by jungle matchups, going into the enemy jungle, finding the enemy jungler, forcing them away. We saw that yesterday.
The thing I like about the discussion is looking back at IM performance, where Spirit has shown he can play the style that is unusual for him. The question mark of how well have Fnatic prepared on the patch and which Spirit will show up. And then you start looking at, as you mentioned, Trashy, the counter ganker, rather. Jankos, we've touched on his First Bloods and the jokes around him being the First Blood king, but he legitimately is mind-boggling. He's helped secure First Blood for his team 18 times, right? 9 kills secured, 9 assists. That's out of 36 games. He's given up First Blood in a further 6 more. So if you look at that, 24 out of 36 games, Jankos has been around First Bloods. Tell me there is not a jungler in this league that reads the early game, the opening 10 to 15 minutes, better than this man on your screen.
No, I think he's the best.
You cannot discount that when he shows up.
Yeah, so while he's the best at reading the early game and where he's supposed to gank, he's also very greedy in the way he ganks, which is why it sometimes works and surprises. Like, he's the kind of guy who...
6 First Blood deaths.
Right, and that's often where he goes in, he sees the enemy junglers there as well, and he's like, nah, I'm going for this First Blood, and then he messes it up or whatever, he flashes forward, he ends up dying, giving up First Blood himself. Happened a lot in the start of the split, Ryu was probably pretty mad because he was often around the mid lane. So that is definitely like the negative side of Jankos, but the thing about Jankos, we know he's a fantastic player. We know like his attitude as well. constantly like, you know, improving, smiling, being happy.
Yep.
The only problem for Jankos is just if you look at his full career, whenever he's played playoffs, whenever he's played the super important games,
there's some speed bumps.
He's actually not showed up. It's always like, first blood king, you know, he's crazy good in the early game. He has a lease in this game versus Gragas. Like, you need to see Jankos have an impact early on. And then he farms to level 7 or 8, and we're like, where's Jankos? He's done nothing, and he has no impact.
Where is the First Blood King?
Where is he?
It is a false crown when you get to the postseason. True? False? No?
So far, yes.
Don't want to jump on that one?
No, this is a split for him to prove us wrong. Not actually prove us wrong because we're right, but show that he that he's changed. You know, show that he's different and he's improved now. And with the new manager, with the Prolly behind him as well, that he can show up.
Then he can show up.
Just Prolly behind.
Just have Prolly tell him exactly where to go in the
now.
game. But that's the key thing though, is I wonder whether this is going to be the reverse split for Jankos, where it's the regular split that has been a little rocky
shaky
and rough.
and
He's going to come out in playoffs and just like kill everybody in every single game.
We will find out soon enough. Before that, though, we do have Pulse standing by on stage with Revolta from INTZ.
Yes, indeed. I'm here with a very special guest here, Revolta, coming in here. And first off, for maybe the viewers out there who don't know you very well, would you like to introduce yourself?
Well, I'm known as Revolta. I'm INTZ's jungler, and I'm here in Europe for a bootcamp.
So, talking about that bootcamp, how is it going, and why did you pick Europe?
It's going great so far. We love Europe, and we have been here before for the last wildcard, and we found it awesome. Like, we love the teams here, we love how they play, and we also love to play, so why not come back?
Is that because you want to try and take some of that style and then bring it back and then try and mess people up with that?
Yeah, I mean, Europe has a unique style about, like, especially jungling and mid. They have really good mid and junglers, and we thought we could, like, abuse it and learn it from them, so it would be good to do at wildcard.
Okay, so we're now looking at these two teams on the stage here, H2K and Fnatic. Are you specifically looking at these two teams? Is that why you're here today, or are you just here for the hype as well?
I think both. Like, I cheer for Fnatic since Season 1, and I love H2K too, so, I mean, both teams has a unique style, and they both play around mid and jungle, so I think it's going to be a really good game.
Actually, how do you think the series is going to go if I can get you for a prediction? Because the analyst score is kind of copping out and saying whoever wins the first game will win the series. Do you want to go along the same vein?
Well, I think it's going to be 3-1 Fnatic.
You think, oh, okay, very, very interesting. Well, I just have one last thing for you here, Revolta, because I hear we're going to be heading to the casters very soon. But do you have a message to your fans, perhaps, before we head up there?
Well, I want to say thank you for everyone in Europe. That everyone here has been so lovely to us. And I want to say happy birthday to Quickshot. And for everyone in Brazil, thank you for cheering for us. And we want to represent you very well at the wildcard.
Absolutely fantastic. Well, thank you very much for taking the time to talk to me here, Revolta. And I'm going to let you get back to your team. But for now, we're going to head back up to the analyst desk to fill a little bit more time.
Hello, guys. Thank you very much. Awesome to hear from Revolta over there as well. And I'm starting to feel sorry for Quickshot because everyone's like, oh, it's his birthday. There's delays and stuff. It'll be like connected like you with all the technical delays.
Oh, like...
A long time ago.
Yeah. That was actually my brother.
Oh, yeah. Every time he came
Every
to
time
the show.
he showed up to 3 different shows. Every time there was a different set of delays, long as possible. He's now banned from any Riot event.
Yeah, ever. Maybe he's here, he's stuck in or something, and that's what's happening. Once again, sorry, guys. Obviously, we are not enjoying this either. I mean, I'm enjoying being here on the desk with you guys, but
Same.
we don't enjoy.
Really, I enjoy your company.
Great. Let's talk some more about the league. Championship points in particular, because it's very interesting for Perks here, because if Fnatic loses today, you guys are going to Worlds anyway. There we are. And then it's actually very interesting scenarios that can develop here. Obviously, we have a bunch of teams that will go into the Gauntlet, but you guys said you actually said so as in the Facebook Live segment that you'd love to see Splice at Worlds, but they're going to have to win the whole thing or go through the Gauntlet as well. So who do you see going to Worlds?
Well, G2 for sure. Yeah. But else, I would like. I think the best teams are G2 and Splice, and third, I don't really expect much of the third team. But yeah, G2 and Splice are, in my opinion, the 2 best teams of Europe.
Yeah, also have to remember that the third team of Europe will be going as a 3rd seed too, and which historically means you get absolutely smashed.
Yeah.
Like these are the teams that can get. Last year, 3rd seed got into a group with I think SKT, EDG, and then you have a nice vacation in America, but then you go home.
Wasn't H2K 2nd seed?
No, I think they were still 3rd seed going in.
I don't remember.
No, because they didn't play finals, right?
Yeah, but
They played Gauntlet, no?
No, Origin played Gauntlet.
Okay, yeah, then they were second seed.
Yeah,
Then they were
they
second seed.
They were.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, we could have
just got
had
a bit
second
lucky.
seeds, but
No, but Origin didn't have like the best group either. They just LGD chose to troll the roles.
I think just China had we expected a lot more from China back then. So
yeah. Gonna say it again. We could have had more second seeds, but yeah, stuff happens.
No, we could have had one more first seed.
Yeah, one more first seed rather. Yeah. Around the third seed.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
But
It's
who
all
needs the
planned.
first seed?
All on me, guys. Sorry.
If you want to win worlds, you have to beat them all anyways, right, Perks?
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, you actually have to beat only half of them. Someone wrote to me on Twitter. So I learned.
All right.
Somebody's talking in her ear.
Yeah,
So I'll just whenever she stops talking randomly and just she can't compute.
I'm not having a stroke. It's just not what I'm talking about.
That's production whispering sweet nothings in Shucks' ear.
Yeah. Anyway, we have been on there for a while filling. So we're going to continue doing that. Obviously, it's not easy for the fans as well. So let's take a look at another tweet. This one from @Yamato Mebdi, who we know very well. Hyped for this matchup. I don't know if he's still hyped. H2K looks stronger on paper, but Fnatic is supported by their history, while H2K does the opposite. I'm a go #H2K win. We already talked about that beforehand, but this is a time when you're sitting there for an hour that it's creeping in. Like Jankos and Vander, like, oh my god, we have to do it now.
Yeah, I mean, mental fortitude matters a lot in playoffs in general, and starting like a best-of-5 series with a 1-hour delay is definitely going to impact these players. Like, we can't pretend it doesn't. Like, a lot of players historically have said that they're so used to scrimming maybe 3 or 4 games maximum effort, and then the 5th game kind of turns into a bit of a fiesta. Same thing is not allowed to happen in best-of-5. How's your experience with scrims right now, Perks? Like, what is the scrim schedule in Europe for playoff teams? Is it like a full-on best-of-5, minimum weights in between? Are you guys mimicking stage settings as much as you can, or?
Not yet. I mean, we do 5 to 6 games per day, so it's called like a best of 5. But you can do like 5 or 6 games depending on how long the games or break between the games. But I think with like a couple of days before playoffs, teams that play try to mimic. So like just take literally like 2 to 5 minutes break between the games. Just play like a real best of 5. So there is like a real practice, you know.
So for you, so as like you've gone through like different training regimens, I imagine, over the years, like which is the one you prefer the most?
The one without a coach. No, just kidding.
Oh, nice name.
Oh, I was just kidding.
as usual.
Just talk to me, no,
Yeah.
ignore.
I think the best is to do. I mean, the best in my opinion will do to do best of 3s over the day, because usually you practice for best of 3s, and maybe towards playoff like practice more for best of 5. So I'll probably go for like, oh, do you play usually either for LCS, either if you're practicing for Worlds, stuff like this.
Do you feel like the fatigue creep in at the end of like a training session still? I remember back in my day, like the 4th and 5th game were absolute trolls.
Usually is the first game is hard too, because not everyone is on the same page. So usually it's most likely the 2nd, 3rd, 4th game that are really good to practice for. And yeah, the first and last game are usually not the greatest.
What about
I'd say.
fatigue overall? You've been playing for 5 years now, competitively, so...
For me, it's fine. Since I don't play solo queue, I don't play.
Oh, you don't play? You don't play solo queue whatsoever?
No,
he's playing on the meme.
I'm just
Yeah.
playing.
Oh, okay, right.
We need like a sarcasm flag.
Yeah. We could have a bell.
Yeah.
Oh, give me the bell.
No.
Ah, come
I
on.
made a mistake now. He said hide it from him.
He said
Yeah.
there is no bell, but you lied to
Yo,
me.
we are 1 hour and 18 minutes into filling. You know what?
Actually, give me the bell,
No,
please.
I don't
Please give me the bell.
No, I do want to keep it serious.
He's ready. Take care now.
Yeah, guys, very sorry. Obviously, we need a little bit of a break as well, and they're still trying to resolve the technical issues on stage. We are continuing to investigate the issue further. We're going to take a 5-minute break, and hopefully when we come back, we'll continue our coverage of Fnatic versus H2K.
Hopefully.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
See you tomorrow.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the European LCS quarterfinals. We still are looking into the problem, but we have heard some positive news about at least discovering the root cause. So while the technicians investigate that further, as well as implementing a fix, also be aware that we have alternative solutions in the works. So all of these things are being weighed up and measured, and once we come to a conclusion, we will let you know how the quarterfinal will progress. We are doing everything we can to get the games underway. In terms of where we are in the current state of things, H2K and Fnatic made it all the way to the last 2 rotations in terms of picks ban. I do just want to remind everybody, because this has become the pick ban stream, memeing aside. And I just want to start with the champions, and then I think let's step back and talk about the teams and where we find ourselves with regards to H2K and Fnatic, because I think we've spoken a lot about H2K, and maybe we can talk a little bit more about Fnatic and the change in managerial and the change in support. So let's start with whatever you want, Stress.
Well, let's start with the bans. And something we're expecting to be very, very common on 615. We've seen it all around the globe when we look at different regions. The emphasis on taking globals away from that first pick spot. Don't want the Shen for a comfortable setup in the top lane. Don't want the Rek'Sai to allow them to group across the map. We're going to see at least 2 in every game. Every single game.
Yeah.
Look at pick and bans from everywhere. There's always going to be 2. Especially when you look at like Tam Kench, GP is always in that mix as well. So again, Fnatic want to remove that from the blue side first pick setup.
If Forgiven gets his way, he'll want all of those teleports and those globals removed as well, because he doesn't like parties in the bottom lane.
No.
That is very true, but he will get a part in the bottom lane. Not only will Fnatic be invited, his own team is also invited down there, so we will have some 5-on-5s happening around that bot lane tower. But also on the pick and ban phase, something I feel we're going to see more and more is jungle focus. I feel like the jungle pool is fairly small right now in terms of top tier picks. Because of the focus on having early game impact, Rek'Sai, Nidalee, Elise are like the 3 that offers the most, and then Gragas comes in, who's a little bit of a slower farmer. He wants level 6. Once he has level 6, obviously he can be very strong. So when you see something like Nidalee, Rek'Sai ban, well then Elise shoots up in priority instantly. Things like H2K that we saw before has kind of died out because he's too weak early game, honestly. He needs too much time before he does anything, and in standard lanes, you got to be able to impact early.
Yeah, we've seen some less than stellar H2K performances
Ooh,
recently.
that was one.
Not so great.
Ouch.
And a lot of people say, well H2K's still got the same engage he had. He's still got that ability to get into lanes, but the early game, as you were saying, not quite the same as we've seen. Also, if paired with the Shen, sure, you can still have the impact, but it's not as reliable. And that's what a lot of junglers in Europe, specifically when H2K was on the upswing, were saying anyway. They were like, look, unless he goes off in this game, it's going to be difficult to get him
he's a power farm
through the game. Exactly.
Right. You need to let him farm up. When a jungler needs to get like a Trinity Force as his first item, he needs to farm a lot. It's the same with something like Vi, always. It's a champion where if she gets a ton of farm and early kills, she can actually be very strong. But if not, then she's either she doesn't have damage to kill someone she's going for, or she has, no tankiness at all, and she goes in and she just dies in the duration it takes her to even reach her target. So Vi is always one or the other.
Yeah.
H2K is a little bit of the same. And
Feast or famine, right?
Sure.
You either get fed or you feed the opponent. No real middle ground. I would also like to let everybody know the players have actually been on stage and off stage while we've been in the ad break and while the analyst was
Yanger's been home already. He's back now.
So the guys have not been sitting there the entire time that we have been in the technical delay. They are still investigating some of the problems. And I mentioned I wanted to talk a little bit about Fnatic because this is a team that could be facing the worst year that they have had in many. And Deficio, we're sort of looking at some of the options and the possibilities in terms of prepping for this quarterfinal.
Well, the thing for Fnatic is if we look at every LCS year, so that's from Season 3 until now, Fnatic has always made, Worlds, Finals, and everything. Finals in Europe, obviously not the World Final specifically. And this year, well, they didn't make it into the final in spring.
Yeah.
They got 3rd place because they actually did manage to bounce back towards the end, but they were still level under G2, which is something Fnatic is not used to. This split was been the same, very up and down, roster changes, issues. Now, against H2K, Fnatic are by no means favorites. And it's still kind of weird when you have a Fnatic team that was so good in Season 5.
Yeah.
To look at them in a playoff and going well, I don't even know if they're going to make it into top 4.
And I think it becomes another issue when you look at the trajectory. It's another step back from just Spring Split. It is how 2015 ended for them because they wanted to go a little further. Not that there's too much further to go than semifinals of Worlds, but they, I feel, internally felt they were deserving of a finals place. Obviously, they weren't because they didn't win that series. But then after that, losing Reignover and Huni was a big shock to the system. And not only that, we also know that very, publicly, they ended up losing some of their other staff. Of course, Judge, who was their analyst, goes over to TSM. We don't have insight into how much of an impact individuals behind the scenes have on Fnatic, but they've slowly lost analysts and coaches and everybody throughout the last 2 splits, and now they find themselves a week before playoffs, completely new coach, different analyst staff, different setup, different top laner, completely different Fnatic to what was in last year.
Also, completely new, old support. You can't understate the fact that, yes, Yellowstar has returned to the roster, but it is different players, it is a different mindset, it is a different time of year. And leaving and coming back is going to add a whole new set of weight and circumstances and challenges to overcome. And especially for a player who, has such a long and storied history here in Europe. And it is just challenges, it is just things that Fnatic have to figure out and figure out how to overcome, just like the delay that we find ourselves in. A brand new coach, brand new support staff, in a high-pressure situation. This is not easy for anybody sitting on stage.
No, and if we look at Fnatic during the split, one of the big talking points, from everyone, community and Fnatic themselves, was around like mentality and attitude. Fnatic actually had some games this split with very long pauses as well, where we were waiting and waiting and waiting. And I remember Dalo going out after one of the games, one of the best of 2 series, and saying, yeah, between games we had a long pause. That actually kind of tilted us, basically. Yeah. We weren't mentally ready to continue the game when it restarted. And we made a lot of mistakes, and the game actually became super messy. That's obviously not really saying a whole lot right now. I don't think Fnatic is suddenly going to play poorly just because of this pause. It's the same for H2K.
Luckily, the game hasn't actually started.
Exactly.
So, yes, obviously there is a disruption to your approach and to your prep, but it doesn't necessarily directly impact the middle of a game, and mess with flow and things like that.
But there's the thing with Fnatic now in this lineup where a guy like Reckless is now the veteran on the team. Even though he's still a young guy, he's been in the league for many, many years, been a professional player since he was like 15 years old. He's the kind of guy, when Fnatic is struggling here in Season 6, who needs to step up and become the leader. He tried in Spring to become that big shot caller. It never really worked out. It wasn't really as successful for Fnatic in the end, and a lot of other players had to step in and also do a lot of calling, and it wasn't until they fixed that communication issue they kind of bounced back in playoffs. Coming into this split as well, Fabian is another guy we look at as a guy who needs to step up and be a bit of a leader on this team. It's hard for us to judge 100%, but it doesn't feel like Reckless and Fabian have been like big motivators and leaders on Fnatic specifically, which is maybe something they're lacking. They hope they could get back with the return of Yellowstar, but it's obviously not been that easy for them.
It hasn't paid dividends yet.
And that's also looking at outside of the game and outside of even just game scenarios, where you look at some of the things Daylor implemented when it came to their practice schedule, their regimen at home, and how they all live together. Obviously, this is somewhat speculation, but having watched Life of Legends and all of the content that Fnatic have output, it kind of brings into question. Fnatic were seemingly happy to go along with a lot of the implementations that Taylor brought in the 2015 season. Things were going well. I kind of would speculate that when they're now not doing so well, does that perhaps lead to the situation we saw with Taylor, where in the press release they said, is it because it's my job that's not doing, is it me that's not doing my job as a coach, or is it that the players aren't quite reacting to what I'm trying to do? And that was what Fnatic released themselves in that press release, and it kind of has shown a mentality shift. All of the Twitter discussion that we've seen over the last week from some of the Fnatic members, they've been a little bit more loose, and I wonder whether that is a product of not being so happy with these situations where they're not doing so well and still having to play with certain different rules that they may or may not agree with.
And you also have to take the next step, right? So you're looking at the cause, you're looking at the root, and like what would put them in those situations, and either allow or not allow them to do that, and then what impact does it have? When we eventually see the game being played, we can see Nico on your screen right now. He's actually got an alternative headset. As mentioned, we are looking to resolve that audio problem. A number of the QA, the quality guys and the tech guys are on stage trying to work through it. And it just keeps adding to the pressure. It just makes things more and more difficult. I'm happy to see most of the players smiling. as we cut to Ryu. There is a joke there that I'm not going to follow up.
He's smiling as well.
Ryu face no space. But, you know, these teams, again, the reason there's so much pressure, the reason this was such a hype matchup is these guys have played so many times for so much at stake in the past. And the fact that one of them does not advance to the semifinals, does not go to Krakow, potentially and realistically does not go to Worlds, it is scary. There's a lot on the line. We've got some footage of some of the last games. I believe we're going to go all the way back to week 2. Not necessarily the most relevant right now, but it obviously just going to help spread this stuff. Let's get some of that footage.
The history book.
Guys.
The history. We're going to go back.
And explain why H2K ended up maybe getting that 4th seed, as well as Fnatic end up taking that 5th seed. You know, this is week 2. This is a long time ago when there was still hope and potential for these lineups.
Yeah, I mean, look at the champions being played. I mean, we got a Draven, we got a Maokai.
Oh yeah, the Draven
away
games.
with Europe. But no, these are the Draven games where we looked at like H2K with Freezy. We were like, this is it. This is Freeze. It's finally got the team beside him.
Remember though, this was the first time Freeze decided to play the game, because the previous 3 games that H2K had played, they played around him and they either won or lost, and Freeze was just kind of an extra on the Rift.
He got super fed. So did Ryu though in this game, and that's actually been a story for Ryu all split long. Whenever he gets to play like assassins.
This is exactly how Ryu felt watching KT and SKT in the result the other day. This is how happy he was.
Ecstatic he was.
Ecstatic. This is about as
the
hype as
battle
we
nap
get.
though. This is the very famous Ryu battle nap all the way back from the early days in Korea. Oh, he's awake. No.
Oh no,
he's
needs
gone.
more. Powering
He's
up.
gone.
Charging.
See, every other player could learn from this. If Ryu goes in now and goes like 10-0 every game, we know why.
Yeah.
He's used to this kind of delay. He's born in this delay, man. He's molded by it. He's ready.
Molded by it. I believe we have some more footage of week 7. So between week 2 and week 7, a lot had changed. And I think our expectations on the team changes, right? Because coming into the split, there was some hope for H2K and question marks for Fnatic. Because I think for most people projecting, you would have thought H2K would place higher than Fnatic based on the addition of Freeze.
Ooh, there's a lot of hype around Yellowstar returning back then.
Of course, but you can't underwrite the fact that Yellowstar was not very impressive in North America.
But week 7 was also around about the time where H2K were on a bit of a downturn, and I remember this was the one where Vedius and I were sat on the analyst desk, and it was like, who's going to win this? And both of us went, yeah, Fnatic 2-0. Easy peasy, done. We rolled it the next day, because it turned out H2K crushed Fnatic.
That was a
in
Draven,
that series. Yeah, again, it was another setup like that. And when we look at the further games that they played, and I think the most telling one ended up being the tiebreaker, because that was the complete opposite.
Well, it's where Fnatic could just collapse,
Yeah.
honestly, completely. And Forgiven coming in, giving some new life to H2K. They went 5-0 that week. Again, we just quickly mentioned Ryu before. When he's been playing like LeBlanc and Fizz, these kind of assassins where he can go off on his own and create these solo kills, well, he's actually been looking really good. But sadly for him, it's only been towards the end of the split we really got to see it, especially the last week with LeBlanc, 100% win rate, 3 games, crazy, you know, score in all the games. So I want to see that kind of Ryu. But in a game like this, to take it all the way back, because it's pick and ban stream, this one, he has to blind pick mid.
Hold that thought. We're not on pick and ban stream yet. I have some more video footage.
Ooh, okay, history.
It is week 7. It is the one that Stress was just talking about. So I'm going to give the microphone to you.
Wait, you talk about the Draven one. That was week 2.
Metaphorically. That was week 2, the
That was week
performances.
2.
But the game 7, no, it will be coming momentarily, I'm hearing. So we will get that up in a second or two. And then we'll continue with our pick and ban stream. Hopefully we can get that graphic up again and talk about some of those blind pick things. But for Ryu, as you mentioned, Officio, a dude that has also had a questionable split. You know, a guy who I actually think he's had a questionable year. I'm going to say because I don't feel Ryu's been as impressive this year as he was last year. And this is, of course, the week 7 games between Fnatic and H2K.
Well, the thing about Ryu is we expect a lot from him because of his history as a player and everything. And when he did join H2K in the start, back in Season 4, he was actually very impressive. He was very good overall. Season 5, I'm going to change it to not Season 4. Just a year off there. So Season 5, when he joined, he actually had a really good first split from H2K and had a lot of solo plays where he was looking very impressive. And once his English got better, he actually became a shot caller.
Yeah.
He's just extremely vocal, sometimes too vocal when you listen to it. Or he's just yelling and yelling and yelling for a certain thing like Baron, and it can kind of be disruptive. But he's a shot caller, and when he gets to sit and be the main guy talking, he can kind of direct H2K around the map.
Yeah, and that video that we were just looking at, the Talia performance, the first time Rio played it, It was not good. It was not good. But then when we did see it in week 9, he hit nearly every single combo, and it was a marked improvement. I also believe week 9 had that small change to Taliyah where it didn't interrupt the spellcast, so maybe that also freed up some of his utility and ability to play. But that's the Ryu H2K will need if they want to advance from the quarterfinals here. They can't afford him having these underwhelming performances.
Exactly, and as you said, that Taliyah was way better in week 9 when we ended up seeing it again. I'm looking at this mid lane matchup, and there's one thing that Fnatic have done, even in recent times, and I really hope they don't do it again. When we look at the pick and ban phase in this game, they're building themselves up for 1-3-1, any kind of setup like that, and I really pray that Fnatic don't last pick Azir. Because if they do that, they throw everything out of the window. And Febiven has shown some reluctance to actually change his champion pool in the last couple of weeks.
But now he's had 2 weeks.
Right, exactly. And this isn't me doing what Crepo said earlier with, oh, well, he's not played any of these things all split. This is just posing the question is, has he adapted enough so that that last little circle on your screen is not Azir? I hope so much it is not.
It will definitely not be Azir. I think there's a lot of options. If we look at potential last picks, Kassadin obviously is one, but he's banned in this game. But then we have Lissandra, Taliyah is one of them as well. If you have a matchup where you feel, okay, maybe we can even run Malzahar here. Like, he get countered by this specifically. We want to have this more late game scaling. We have a strong team fighting composition. I expect it to be like very focused around split pushing and having global pressure, trying to like really set up Kikis specifically, but also then when you have Tahm Kench, like imagine this situation where your mid laner has a global, your support technically has a global, so I'm going to call it a global even though it's from mid to a side lane because he's going to sit in the mid lane.
Still counts.
You can move your team around so quickly as Fnatic and constantly play around multiple lanes and actually really try and pressure H2K. And what people need to remember in these 2v2 lanes we talk so often about, yeah, you might be able to kill the guy like in just pure setup if it was 2v2 only. It's never 2v2 only. There are junglers, there are top laners, there are mid laners with globals who can join. So if Forgiven and Vander pick this super aggressive 2v2 lane and try and punish the Tahm Kench,
they will get punished themselves.
High chance suddenly they're going to get ganked by multiple guys.
If Fnatic plays correctly.
If they play correctly,
this is the whole thing, right? This is the assumption that every mistake is punished appropriately, and whether or not teams are A, willing to do so, and B, capable of doing so. Seeing the play, seeing the timing, seeing that man on your screen actually available to punish a potentially aggressive lane, because you assume this Karma's going to go support, you assume there's going to be a pushing...
Not assuming anything just yet with the Karma. Can definitely be mid lane.
Yeah.
If you want this...
Even for Ryu?
I'm not a fan of it. I don't like it, but a lot of teams still do it because it is such a safe blind pick. And you lack safe blind picks in the current meta.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with any of that, talking about blind picks, but you alluded to it earlier. You run out of damage unless you have it subsequently, given by somebody else. Luckily, there's a GP on this, so I'm not actually afraid of them running out of damage, despite having a Karma, even if it goes mid. Especially if it's paired with like a Sivir here as well, if they do end up picking up a Sivir for H2K. But now the interesting thing is against the Tahm Kench, it's very difficult to... like snowball off a lane against the Tahm Kench because you very rarely will get a kill against the Tahm Kench in lane in that duo setup. So now I'm wondering, can they just dominate for a farm game, or can they, look to try and get any kind of kills on the reverse side of that?
Definitely, and as we talk about Karma as well, going different lanes, no matter where they put the Karma right now, it looks like a bit of a squishy lineup on the side of H2K. Like GP top is not going to be super tanky, Elise jungle is not going to be that tanky either compared to Gragas. And looking at the pick from Reckless with the Jhin, like one of the reasons Jhin is so good in the current meta is because he can build armor penetration against a lot of squishy targets. Like, you're setting up this Jhin for success. If he has so many different picks he can go for where they're all super squishy, and he can, like, with one full combo, landing every single skill shot of his ulti, like, the guy's either back in base or he's already dead. So there are definitely a lot of options here for Fnatic, just looking at pure team fighting, because they have, like, 3 tanks so far and an armor penetration 80 carry. There's a lot of squishy members on the side of H2K, and that can be very, very scary.
And if anybody hasn't watched the SKT vs KT series earlier in the week, please go watch it. You will see some of, if not the best Jhin performance that I have seen probably all split long coming out of Arrow. It was phenomenal.
Ridiculous.
Absolutely phenomenal. I mean, he literally turned into Angelina Jolie and curved bullets multiple times in that game 5 with the curtain call.
If it all lines up in that way, be prepared for every game at Worlds to have that banned against Arrow. Nobody is going to want to play against that. Nobody would want to face that down. He had like over an 80 KDA over the last few games.
It was
Jin. He
mind-boggling.
just didn't die.
It truly was mind-boggling.
And destroyed everyone.
Again, Reckless is being set up to be very successful in this game because there's actually no hard engage on the side of H2K right now.
Yeah.
A lot of it is coming from having strong early game where you can have Elise putting pressure on the map and then a global from GP. GP as a champion, even if he falls behind, is still really impactful because he has a global ulti.
Yes.
That is so good. It's instant. You know, it has a lot of value when you use it. So if you get to this point where it's really even and you get into 15, 20 minutes, no one is really going to dive in and kill Reckless right now. There's also time Kench to protect him if needed. And all these squishy members, well, Gnar damage is enough with Frozen Mallet, Gragas as well. It is really scary for H2K then, if they're not able to use this Elise to actually snowball early with the current picks.
Gentlemen, we have spoken a whole hell of a lot about picks and bans, and we've talked about the team story. I do want to give the viewers at home another update. Unfortunately, the same problem is still being investigated with Fnatic. As I mentioned earlier, they are trying multiple solutions here. The team and players are actually in a practice game, investigating some of the alternative solutions that are being put into place. In addition, there are discussions ongoing about some alternative methods that we could get to get the game underway, or what decisions we will take going forward. Unfortunately for now, I think we are going to take a 5-minute ad break. Please do stick with us. We will be back in a short time to give you yet another update.
Beneath the city, the beast stirs, tormented by hunger. That fearsome appetite, once kindled, will not be extinguished.
Welcome back, everyone. Sorry, not just yet in picks and bans. We are continuing to investigate the issues affecting the players on stage. We promise to keep you updated with all the information available. And at the end of this series, the final team will be locked in for Krakow as well. Tickets are still available at LLesports.com if you want to join us. We'll promise we'll get to the games faster over there. I hope so, at least. In any case, just to say that the players, they are allowed to get up, get some food, get some drinks, go to the bathroom. So that is covered for them. But obviously the mental is probably thinking.
Yeah. But in the lobby, Reckless was writing too, you know, yeah, we have some audio issues, or as they say in Korea, you know.
Audio boom.
Audio boom, or sound boom. But yeah, we have started trying to turn it off and on again. We had a lot of people on Twitter saying like, "Have you tried that?" Yes.
Yeah.
We've established that for Given's headset is not on backwards either. You know, so like we've checked everything, but sadly the problem is slightly more elusive. So we're stuck here with perks and so as to fill some time.
I mean, there's worse people to be stuck with, I guess.
Yeah, like being stuck with Crepo.
Yeah,
yeah, so I have to take the good with the bad in broadcast sometimes. We saw the tease there for Krakow. I want to talk a bit about that. Of course, Perks, you are already going to Krakow no matter what, if it's for the third place match or for the whole thing. How excited are you to be in the big arena again?
I'm really excited to play in the big arena again because playing in Rotterdam was really awesome, and playing at Shanghai was really awesome too because there was a lot more people too. So I think playing on big stage and feeling like how people scream, even though in Shanghai I didn't hear a lot of screams, but it's still it's still pretty awesome feeling, and yeah, I'm looking forward to it again.
So if you're like in a situation where you know, enemy mid flashes away and you could flash after him, maybe getting the kill, but usually in LCS you would obviously just let him go. On a tournament,
never let him go.
On a tournament with like a lot of crowd, are you gonna make decisions that are slightly more aggressive to maybe get you those cheers, like for both of you?
I think not. I think I played the same in Rotterdam as I played in in playoffs. So.
And at MSI, would you say? Do you feel you also played worse individually, or?
Yeah, I mean just other reasons, not because of the stage.
I think it really depends about your team environment. Like if everyone is super hyped, you know, you tend to go more for the kills. But if everyone is really calm, then you'll go for the safe play journey. So.
Yeah, or for the teleport just 1 second later for you. No.
Can you just talk between us?
Anyway, going back to this matchup, obviously H2K versus Fnatic. We were talking a bit earlier about career-defining moments for Reckless, possibly. We had that tweet, Reckless going out with the series of his life.
Yeah, I just wanted to jump on that a little bit because I don't think there is a world where this could be the career-defining series for Reckless because he has such a long history. If you go back, like for me, like IPL 5 is probably like the career-defining tournament and series for him because it established so much more than this match can either make or break. So as you play with him like back then too, I believe. So
yeah.
What's your take on his career and like, you know, career-defining series rather?
I don't think like Fnatic is playing right now and though they are playing all this season fits him so well. He even though most people look at him like he's really good at farming, he's really good at team fighting, positioning and stuff like this. He also really like to play to win his lane also, right? And it's not that it's not something that they've been able to do since Yellowstar came back. So yeah.
Even right before he left.
Yeah, even before. But if you look at 2 years ago, maybe they are still able to do that. But like since a year or something, maybe.
Yeah, honestly, I think Reckless is a bit unlucky because all the supports he has had in the past have been like not lane dominant players or players that will help you win lane more than like smarter players who's gonna teach you the macro or lead you on the map.
I mean, it depends on time though, because at one point, like Yellowstar definitely was good enough, you know, to win lane. I think it's you shouldn't judge a player like by the way he ends.
He also played with Crepo, so.
On IPL, he was playing with Enrated, even though most people will not say Enrated was the best mechanical super or anything. They are always. I remember when Enrated and they are playing a lot of
Leona and stuff.
Yeah, aggressive bot lane. So
I mean, I rated back in the time when Reckless had decent Leona. I mean, probably
yeah,
second
they're
best,
playing a lot of
second best in
Leona.
the world.
Blitzcrank too.
No, they used to play aggressive lane, so I think Reckless definitely can play that. But I also just think bot lane meta has evolved past the moments where people just simply die 2v2. You really need to brute force. I think when teleport was introduced into like good players' hands, it's just impossible because if you go aggressive, you just get TP'd on and you lose.
Yeah, so as knows this as well. Obviously, we also have a tweet from @Plummer1AA. Reckless and Yellowstar have a long history, good and bad games, in my opinion. This makes their duo stronger than H2K's. #EULCS. Obviously, there's a thing to be said for stress control in situations like this.
Well, it really depends about their mindset right now. It doesn't depend so
Like
much
right
about
now, or 2 hours ago?
No, I mean, yeah, right now. It depends. I mean, it's probably the same anyways for them, but it doesn't really matter in the moment what they have been through or whatever. It's really in the moment and how they feel towards each other in the moment that is gonna help them or maybe not help them at all. So
How much will that help you maybe on the international stage? The fact that Sven and Mithy seem to have that and they had it from the get-go? The synergy?
The synergy? Well, Sven and Mithy have insane synergy. So that comes with practice and I guess just understanding the game on the same level. While I think Reckless and Yellowstar have good synergy, and they understand the game really well. They play the dual lane good, like they never lose the lane or they know how to move on the map. But I think Forgiven and Wonder are better as 2v2 laners, but I think Reckless and Yellowstar are smarter and can play the map better. Even though it's debatable, but that's my thought.
I think Reckless is better at losing lane, and Forgiven is better at winning lane.
Yes, I think so too. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and
we
see
but at the same time,
it's not what I know. It's just that what Sven told me is like the Reckless is like really good at never losing, and yeah, and Forgiven is good at pushing. So.
Yep, I know
well,
about
it's a
that
good
one.
thing to have. We saw Prolly there with Odawamne. They're playing rock, paper, scissors at this time. So Prolly's trying to keep the morale up. He's letting Odawamne win. How would that even work? How can you just slow?
I mean, you always go rock, you know. At one point, this guy has to figure it out.
In any case, other things to talk about. I'm thinking about the Fisho got some people tickets for today. I think right now they're like, why am I here? Like, why? No, just kidding. I would just want to give a shout out to you guys in the arena as well for waiting. I know that Perks went out a second ago to throw some swag over to you guys. So bear with us. Hopefully we get to a game soon. And before today's broadcast, we went live on Facebook with Soaz a while ago and Verius as well, and had some inquiries to this matchup as well. And Abuto Wekago asks, do you think this patch heavily favors H2K in terms of lanes and jungle specifically? And then looking ahead, also not just this match, but the rest of the playoffs, how has that influenced H2K, Perks?
H2K, I think it doesn't affect them in so much in laners rather than in jungle. And like bot lane, jungle has to play around the bot lane to make it actually efficient. Because I think Odamne is like a decent laner, he's a good laner, and Ryu is like, he's okay laner too. It's not like they're lane dominant players, while as Forgiven, he's like very lane dominant player or like push player. He needs to have winning matchup and he can play it really good. And Jankos is the type of jungler who would, I think, rather play the whole map rather than just being the dog for the bot lane. So I don't think it actually like really benefits the H2K style, but if they can play with it, it can be good, yeah.
I agree with Perks. I think it helped our jungle, but I think that Odamne is really good at playing losing matchup, and usually tend to go for that most of the time. So it doesn't change so much for lanes, but I agree with Jankos helping him a lot.
Yeah, I think Jankos is just a good ganking jungler. So like getting 4 standard lanes is better. A trick. Spirit rather always goes for farm in my opinion. Not always, but like he leans more to do an extra camp as opposed to putting extra watch for his lane. I wouldn't say like they only have to play around bot, because I think Kikis is a player, if you gank him twice, you can actually give him a mental hit and then get Odawamne snowballing. And Odawamne's strengths for me is that he can like siphon or leverage an advantage from top to bottom lane himself.
Yeah,
then like
Kikis is good at tanking the ganks.
Yeah.
I can confirm that a lot of times he was tanking the ganks for us in scrims and LCS.
But then Odawamne can get that advantage and go bot with like a Shen pick or a GP
true.
global, you know, and then help the bot lane.
But maybe Jankos can camp top, Kikis tanks the ganks, and then other lanes get the
absorb the ganks.
Hey, Werlip might see play as well, you know.
Come on.
I mean, I don't know. This is a subsystem as it is, so.
I mean, technically, yeah.
Technically, yeah, but I think very unlikely.
Do you think more teams should use subs more? Especially now, dynamic side selection, plus the fact that you could put in other subs, or is it just too much resources having to go into someone else you have to get synergy with?
I think subs overall is actually a very good system to use, especially like in Asia, in Korea and China, because there is a lot more players, like bigger player base, and organizations, teams invest more into having more good players on a team rather than just having 5 good players on a team. So I think something that Europe is lacking is the only that we don't have like efficient subs to use, while LCK and LPL have like this like 7 to 10 good players on a team, you know, that they can actually step out and use. So I think it's good, but if you have really the best players in the role, I think subs are not needed.
I mean, you say it would be a good system, but can you imagine that tomorrow Youngbuck comes and says, hey, I've got this up-and-coming mid laner, we're going to share the spot from now on? That wouldn't be an easy mental shift too, right? It would take a while, or...
I mean, I don't know, I can't say how I would affect, because I would have to like first be in the position, but I can see myself working with another mid laner, because I would rather prefer like having the best winning team. If I would have to work with someone who is like actually better than me in some aspects of the game, then I would be fine with it. So I can learn from him, and maybe he can learn something from me. So both can be better. But if someone is completely worse than me, I would get a hit, and I would not be able to perform well, I think. So it just depends on person to person.
I mean, luckily there's a lot of people better than you, so...
Yeah, time out. Soaz had a point, but now he's laughing.
No, I agree with Perks. It completely depends about the perspective of the team and how they see it. Like if they see it as it's a rival and they're not gonna work with him, then it's really bad because it's gonna bring animosity in the team. But if the two players work with each other, then it's gonna help the whole team. So it's really good.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the story of Kiki's the split was that he first could not deal with the fact that he would have to share the spot, and now obviously he feels more sovereign in his, I think, place in the top lane in Fnatic over Werlip.
Yeah, he gets the spot right there, but I still don't really like historically agree from the outside, because I think Kiki's had everything it took to challenge Expect for that spot and could have been the #1 top laner there. So I never really agreed with him leaving, but I do respect somebody that can take a decision that will be frowned upon by many and then at least stick to his guns and ride it out. Because to me, it felt a bit like a bluff. It's like, yeah, guys, I'm leaving if I don't get the #1 spot right now. And then the organization goes like, bye-bye. You don't need to answer this.
Perks is like, I don't.
No, don't answer it. But yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we'll see what happens in this one as well. And we also have another question, I think, from Facebook Live that's quite interesting from Oliver Kokanski. Vogler Dam asks, if the entire LCS had been on this patch, how do you think the standings would be? And then you can choose if you had seen H2K with Freeze or with Forgiven the whole patch, and how, or the whole split, and what it would be like.
H2K with Freeze, I think it would be around the same. I don't know. I don't think there's like so many super strong laners. Like I would probably think about Vitality, but they've been doing so poorly this season. So, like in terms of my lane, I think yeah, Vitality will be really good, but they didn't play so well. So besides them, I'm not really sure.
I disagree, but that's just my opinion. I don't think Vitality will be good in some lanes.
It just means Cabo short maybe.
Yeah, I mean in my position.
I also don't disagree on don't agree with that the most, because I think Cowboy is a player that's very easy to abuse. His aggressiveness and the way he plays the lane is like with jungler help or lose. So that's just my opinion. So
Yeah, I think judging on like,
yeah,
I mean, I think you can definitely agree there to an extent, but he's still a good duelist top laner. Like if you look at the series yesterday, Unicorns of Love would likely be higher in the standings, I think, in standard lanes, because you remove the variance of like super like random macro games.
I can agree to, yeah, for sure.
And then Giants would be lower because I don't think their bot lane is strong enough.
I think Move is a good ganking jungler too, and I think Vicharchi is a very good top laner, and their mid laner is also good. I don't know about their bot lane, but they're also not bad. So I think Unicorns definitely benefit from this patch the most out of any other team. So that's all. Yeah.
I agree completely. Earl would have done a lot better.
Done a lot better, yeah.
Yeah, someone is saying something in my ear for a second. So we talked about this with Soaz already, best representatives for Worlds. And can we talk actual aspirations for Worlds? Because last year, I think from an analyst point of view, we had kind of of course, OG was also in the semifinals, but we had kind of this idea of like, this is the year that Fnatic could actually do very good, and semifinals is fantastic, but it still felt like something, it could have been even better. What do we feel this year? Because obviously there's been a lot of, Europe is not that good this year, this and that.
I don't think Europe is going to make it out of quarterfinals. It's going to be hard to even get out of groups, probably. G2 can probably get out of groups.
I think Europe has a chance of winning Worlds.
Right
from Beijing coming.
Maxor was also going to win Worlds.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
I think it really depends. I think G2 is going to be in the same spot as G2 can probably practice with Splice, but most likely they're going to be in the same spot as TSM with Immortals. Like they need to practice more than just this team, you know. They need to be able to extend their knowledge about the game and everything.
All right, we'll see what happens. We at least hope Europe to do well, but
Yeah. Looking back though about like Krakow and like crowds, I was just wondering. So, do you have any fond memories? Like, what's the best crowd you've ever played in? What was like the best big tournament?
IPL 5. Yeah, this was the best crowd again.
I just happened to be in Vegas, you know.
Yeah. Should go there again. Personal favorites. I'm very excited to go back to Poland because it's always like Katowice is always insane how people are cheering and everything. Rotterdam was also amazing. What was your favorite memory?
Ooh, I think the most
winning
like,
relegation.
Yeah, no, there are no winners in relegations. There's only degradations of losers. No, I think OGN 2012. That was like the first time I quit like college 3 months before, and then I sent a picture to my mom with like 10,000 people. I was like, "Yep, they're here for me. Look, that's the trophy." And
I didn't win it.
I didn't win it. I was so angry.
Reverse sweep.
But that was a beautiful crowd. Actually, we returned there for Worlds, and being in like the empty open war memorial brought back a lot of memories. So that was a good place.
Stuff, memories. It's Quickshot's birthday. He'll have a fond memory of this day. It's also Chips' birthday from the French broadcast crew, I think. So félicitations.
Bon anniversaire.
Oui, félicitations là-bas. How do you rate our friends?
Joyeux
French?
anniversaire. Bon anniversaire.
Yeah, no. What do you think of our French?
What?
Is our French boosted? Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
I can't.
I didn't get. No, it's fine. I think Repo's one is a bit better.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Anyway, back on track. Yeah. Splice. Let's talk about Splice. How much growth potential do you think the team like Splice has going into the rest of the season? Possibly even winning the split if they have to go up against H2K or Fnatic. So, what do you guys think?
I think Splice is actually a very good team. Last split, I didn't respect them that much because I thought the players were not that good, or I thought they were good in scrims or in solo queue, but in stage they always underperformed. Then after after spring split ended, and I got a new support, but I don't think support matters at all. Like even with Nisbet, they would be like top 5, I think, because I think everyone from the team, like Wunder, Trashy, Sankooks, and Kobe, has stepped up so big time that they're like top 2, 3 players in their roles. Each one from Splice is like top 3 at least, you know. So I think Splice is a very good team, and it definitely, if we face them in finals, it won't be like it will be a hard match, I think. So I respect them.
You agree?
I agree with that.
Yeah, it's getting a bit difficult for us.
I think looking at their bot lane, I think Mickey X brings so much more to the lane aggressively that actually liberates Kobe. And I feel like if you have 3 lanes that can actually hold their own weight, your own lane becomes so much easier to play.
I mean, yeah, for sure. I agree. Mickey X is a huge upgrade, but I think I just mentioned it because I thought the other players have stepped up so big time that it wouldn't even matter, you know, if they had someone else.
I just hope
it would, but
I mean, they also stopped playing Queen top lane, so
yeah,
probably helped. So, you know.
Yeah, that's true too.
I just hope for the sake of Splice that it doesn't get to their heads. I know Yamato is a very proudful character, but he's still very young. You know, he's only like 19 or 20 years old, and he has like, you know, made certain comments, you know, on social media lately. So I hope they just keep the focus on the game and on their team and keep their head down and keep working hard because there's a lot of progression. And I even would argue that the major blocker for European teams at Worlds is how dependent on how hard their top laners get smashed internationally. And I think Wunder will get smashed less than expect. So in that sense, despite Sven and Miffy being better than Kobe and Mickey, I think Splice is actually a very interesting contestant for Worlds.
After seeing some they play in LCK, I'm not that afraid of a Korean top.
Yeah, but you say that every year we say the same thing.
Yeah, we say, oh, it's not that bad. Oh, they're not that good.
You just need to wait until the meta shift again, you know, and to carry top laners every time.
I mean, I agree. I think Smeb is like on a level higher than anyone else because he plays his lane perfect. He never does bad TPs, so he never does bad plays, and he sometimes does clutch plays. So he's like a player who will always be great and sometimes will be outstanding. So I think Smeb is like extremely good, and then I think other top laners are a bit overrated.
Because like last year, Huni was the wonder boy, and like the god tier top laner that was
the Korean wonder boy.
Yeah, the Korean god slayer, even though he's Korean himself. And then he showed up at Worlds and he got exposed, you know. So
I mean, he got exposed by Smeb, who was arguably the best player in the tournament. So and Huni was like really good versus everyone else. So.
I think Uni was just a bit cocky last Worlds because he played some match like he picked some champions such as like Fiora into Karim at the time, and yeah, he just got crushed on by Karim, stuff like this.
Who are your best top laners over the whole history of League, including yourself?
It depends. For me, the best top laners is the top laners that I've learned a lot from, and the two of them was Shy and Flame, from the one that I've learned the most. And if I think overall, I would probably say Smeb first and Flame and Shy. Yeah.
How much does historical legacy matter to you guys? Having those titles, having those, or is it just about doing what you love? How much? How big is the hunger for you, Perks?
I mean, for me, since I haven't played, or I haven't really watched competitive league, I started watching like in season 5. I started following really because I was challenger.
When did you start playing professionally? Then.
Professionally, started playing in season 5, like in challenger series, and the end of season 5. So.
Yeah.
So yeah, I only watched whole season 5, and I mean, I actually watched some old games before occasionally, and then I would watch replays or VODs of old games, like to see like how good was Samsung White, or how good was SKT, or how good was FLICKR, or how good were these players. And I actually respect a lot of players because how good they were. But what I look forward is to in future being better than those players or defeating them at a tournament, because I think as long as like you're a legacy god or like history god, or you were so good in the past, I don't think it matters as long as you're not in the good.
Because it's all about adaptation. Because if you look historically, for example, Wicked I think was one of the pioneers of top lane at the time, and the single style that he played, he was extremely good at. But the lack of adaptability is just, you have to be able to adapt, and I think that's what separates a lot of good players or legacy players over time.
Also, I think improving.
Yeah.
And overall, I just think like players like, for example, Dade or something, he was so good in season 3, and ever since then he was just really lackluster, or he hasn't improved a tiny bit since season 3 as I watch him play in season 6 now. That's what I think of Dade. You know, he was god in season 3, and now he's like just a decent average mid laner. You know.
It is so hard to judge that from VODs though, because if you watch any season or season 3 game right now, you see that the game was just so far behind in terms of like macro and strategy,
and even mechanical.
And then it's really hard to like recognize like how far everybody else was relatively to the level, right? Like because it plays like an insect in like early season 3, you know, was like, whoa, this guy is a mechanical genius. And right now
if you don't predict the flash of insect, you're bad, you know.
Yeah. Well, you talk about winning worlds possibly.
I don't misinterpret. I said you can.
Yeah.
It's possible to win Worlds.
Yes.
But I'm not saying I'm gonna win Worlds or whatever, but I'm gonna try. So that's for sure.
All right. I think we're going to take another quick break. I'm very
Just a
sorry,
quick one.
guys. A quick one.
If you have any questions, at Shocks.
Yeah, or at Quickshot for his birthday. Any case, an update for you guys is that now the officials are talking to the managers to see what the next step is, as they still try and resolve the technical issues as well. We are obviously very sorry. We're trying to make this entertaining for you guys, so stick with us. We'll be back in 5 minutes. We feel your pain. We definitely do, and we'll be back with more information after this. Welcome back to the European LCS. We do have some information for you regarding the technical delay between Fnatic and H2K. It has been decided between the teams and operations that this match will be delayed until Tuesday, 5 p.m. Central European Standard Time. This is due to persistent audio issues on stage that cannot foreseeably be resolved. This decision has been reached in order to protect the competitive integrity and the players' well-being. Obviously, we are very sorry about that. There is nothing more to do. Players' well-being is at stake.
I mean, as annoying it is for viewers and even the players, after like 1 or 2 hours, imagine if they have like a cadence or there's a rhythm to a best of 5. Like some of these players maybe take like an energy drink like 2 hours before. They would be too fatigued at the end of a best of 5 too. Also, we have no clue when the problem can be solved. It's very sad for the viewers, but hopefully people can understand that it's in the best interest of the result of the match, which is essentially the most important thing because we're talking about potential Road to Worlds.
We are.
Honestly, as a player, I would rather prefer that the match right now would get cancelled, even than trying to like fix the delay or something. Because already like after 40 minutes of delay, I would rather prefer just to go home and play the other day because you were like mentally prepared, you talked everything, and then you're, as you said, like you drink Red Bull or something, and you just you're off already. You can't play.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no one would have been able to perform at the best level anyways.
Yeah, so this is also what the conclusion that was reached by talking to the teams as well. Also for the people here in the arena, some of us are going to go down and take pictures and stuff.
You don't get a series, but you get
at
to see
least
Sharks.
worth. I know it's you know, but we still want to make this enjoyable for you guys as well. And of course, events will work with you guys in terms of tickets. And for you guys at home, we'll see you Tuesday. But in just over an hour, the NALCS will be continuing with their quarterfinal between CLG and Team Liquid. That is at 9 p.m. Central European Summertime, so you have that to look forward to. At least time for us to log off. Nothing more to say but that we are very, very sorry. We apologize. We appreciate you for sticking this out with us. Thank you so much also, Perks and Soaz, for helping us out here. I know it can be easy, and we'll see you at Tuesday, 5 p.m. Central European Summertime, where we continue the 2016 EULCS Summer Playoffs. Thank you for joining, and good night.
Thank you.